Chapter 651. As he spoke, Long Xingyun pounced at Mu Yu again. With a sharp palm strike, he arrived before Mu Yu in an instant. Mu Yu refused to believe it. His body had been refined by the black and white spiritual energy of the netherworld grass. Every time he was injured, his body would become stronger. How could it be weaker than Long Xingyun's dragon claw? Mu Yu gathered the black and white spiritual energy in his body. One black and one white spiritual energy occupied each of his hands. His right hand was covered in a white glow. His life force was trembling violently. Without the restriction of the death aura, it needed to be released quickly. Otherwise, Mu Yu's arm would explode. Long Xingyun's right hand was also glowing with a strong green glow. He smiled evilly and transferred the dragon scale to his fist. The powerful dragon scale contained the dragon cloud of a true dragon. It was extremely powerful and indestructible. In Long Xingyun's opinion, no matter how powerful Mu Yu's sword skills were, his body was no match for his. Seeing that Mu Yu wanted to fight him head-on, Long Xingyun sneered in his heart. He increased the power in his fist again. Spiritual energy gathered in his fist and flowed continuously. He threw a punch. Boom! The air in the air was stirred up violently. It was as if it was being squeezed and exploded violently. With the help of the dragon scale, Long Xingyun's strength had reached a terrifying level. Long Xingyun could already imagine the scene of Mu Yu's right hand cracking inch by inch. He even wanted to crush Mu Yu's arm and break all the bones in his body in an instant, so that Mu Yu could no longer interfere with his plan of obtaining the true dragon bloodline. At the same time, Mu Yu's fist, which was filled with boundless life force, was swung out and collided with Long Xingyun's. Bang! 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 A series of earth-shattering collisions rang out like a chain reaction. Violent spiritual energy exploded from the center of their fists. If it weren't for the fact that the Tower of Demons subduing pagoda was incomparably sturdy, this attack would have been enough to turn the entire area into ruins. Long Xingyun and Mu Yu both quickly backed away. Their fists collided, but no one had the upper hand. However, Long Xingyun's heart was in turmoil. His fist was filled with his grandpa's dragon scale vital energy. How could he only be evenly matched with Mu Yu? Not only was this guy's sword skills amazing, but his body was also this strong. Mu Yu rotated his wrist. He was also quite concerned about Xingyun's dragon scale. He rarely used his physical body when fighting with others because he had extremely powerful swordsmanship and array techniques. He didn't need to fight with others at all. Today's clash with Long Xingyun was only on a whim. But facing the strengthened Long Xingyun, he didn't have the upper hand at all. Even the strength of this guy's physical body is so strong. Long Xingyun frowned. The green dragon monster king's dragon scale returned to the center of his forehead, making him look even more demonic. The white and black light on Mu Yu's right hand alternated. The black light was filled with death chi, and the white light was filled with life chi. They intertwined and restricted each other. Suddenly, a bold idea came to his mind. It seems like your dragon scales are only SOS, so I thought your dragon race was more powerful. Mu Yu said with a smile. Mu Yu, you're wrong. We true dragons are very powerful. It's just that this bastard is embarrassing us. Long Tongue didn't hide the disdain in his heart. Every time Long Xingyun heard the word bastard, he would be furious. It was something the dragons didn't want to admit. They did everything they could to become a pure true dragon. But after so many years, other than the Green Dragon Monster King, no other true dragon had appeared. In order to become a true dragon, gain the Green Dragon Monster King's approval, and become the leader of the Green Dragon Dynasty, Long Xingyun did everything he could. He even killed his own kind to absorb their blood to make his true dragon bloodline stronger. Now that he saw Mu Yu with a true dragon, how could he let it go? If I catch you, I'll be a true dragon. Long Xingyun snorted. His dragon claw glowed with a powerful green light again, and he swung his fist at Mu Yu again. Mu Yu reached out his right hand. This time, his right hand was no longer glowing with white light. Instead, it was glowing with a deadly black light. The black light flickered as if it was going to erode everything around it, including Mu Yu's own right hand. before the black light could devour Mu Yu's right hand. Mu Yu's right hand turned into a palm energy and met Long Xingyun's fist head-on. When the fist and palm collided, the black light in Mu Yu's right hand stopped devouring his right hand. Instead, it turned to devour Long Xingyun's fist energy. Long Xingyun was shocked. He realized that his fist had once again landed in a bottomless pit. Not only that, but the dragon essence in his body was also being sucked away by Mu Yu's right hand. The black light on Mu Yu's fist was like a powerful whirlpool. Long Xingyun couldn't even pull his fist back in time. "What did you do to me?" Long Xingyun roared in anger. "You'll understand." The deadly aura in Mu Yu's right hand devoured all of Long Xingyun's fist energy. At the same time, his left hand lit up with a dazzling white light. A surge of dragon essence surged in the white light as he smashed it at Long Xingyun's chest. Bang! Long Xingyun felt his chest tighten as a powerful force slammed into it. But what shocked him was that the force came from the dragon scale itself. The power of the dragon scale was used on him, but the dragon scale he was relying on was on his fist. It was sucked in by Mu Yu and couldn't be moved in time. In the blink of an eye, a few of Long Xingyun's ribs were broken. He was sent flying and crashed into the wall of the Yao ceiling tower, then fell to the ground. Using the black and white spiritual energy like this is much more powerful than using the wind technique alone. Mu Yu's right hand was seriously corroded by the deadly aura. It was even broken, but the life force was already healing his damaged hand. This was the first time he took the initiative to use the black and white spiritual energy separately. He temporarily blocked the white spiritual energy from flowing into his right hand and covered it with the deadly aura. The deadly aura could devour everything, so it also devoured the power of Long Xingyun's powerful fist. Mu Yu then used the wind technique to transfer the power to his left fist. His fist was already filled with the life force that was about to explode. Now that it had gathered his opponent's power, it would naturally be even more powerful. What Mu Yu did was actually very dangerous. The black and white spiritual energy in Mu Yu's body was in balance. If he stopped the white spiritual energy from flowing to his hand, then his hand would have to bear the brunt of the black spiritual energy's destructive power. If he wasn't careful, his hand would be devoured in an instant. He had to grasp the right time to use it. Otherwise, his hand would be destroyed before he could devour his opponent's attack. Long Xingyun got up angrily. As a shifter, his original form was a shifter. He also had the bloodline of the Green Dragon Shifter King. His physical fitness was top-notch, but Mu Yu broke his ribs with one punch. This was extremely humiliating, unforgivable. Long Xingyun roared. His bones began to crackle. His body rapidly changed. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into his original form. A black dragon python appeared in front of Mu Yu. At this time, the dragon scale vital energy had spread out evenly and covered his entire body. All the scales on his body had turned into the green dragon scales of the green dragon. The scales on his body looked exactly the same as Long Tongue's. "Bastard! How dare you defile my body?" Mu Yu beat him up. Long Tongue was very angry. "You want to defeat me? You're not strong enough." Long Xingyun suddenly straightened his body. A green light began to flow from his body. Then, the green light gradually gathered on top of his giant python head. The dragon star meteor snake opened its mouth and spat out a violent dragon breath. It turned into countless sharp snake fangs in the air and shot toward Mu Yu. F***CK. I can't take it anymore. Mu Yu, let me teach him what a real dragon breath is. Long Tongue saw that Long Xingyun's dragon breath was actually snake fangs. The proud true dragon couldn't take it anymore. His body suddenly expanded. The wind heart-linking array appeared under Mu Yu's feet and covered Long Tongue. The shadow sword Qi soared into the sky. The biting cold sword Qi instantly turned into a majestic green dragon and was swallowed by Long Tongue. Then, Long Tongue's momentum rose. With the help of Mu Yu's spiritual energy, he also had the momentum of the form synthesis stage. Long Xingyun was also shocked by Long Tongue's dragon form. He was really jealous. This was the body of a true dragon that he had always wanted. The final form that he had always dreamed of. Bastard, this is the real dragon breath. Longting opened his mouth and spat out a huge dragon breath. The dragon breath turned into thousands of small dragons in the air. They nimbly and excitedly collided with the snake fangs in the sky. Boom! The small dragons and the snake fangs collided. Longtongue and Long Xingyin were both knocked back. Muyu's hand also appeared. Runes appeared behind Longtongue and stabilized his body. Big earthworm, don't you usually turn your dragon breath into a sword? Why are there so many small earthworms today? Xiao Shuai yelled. Of course I have to use my noble dragon form to deal with a bastard. Let him know what a real true dragon is, humph. Longtongue said arrogantly. Muyu was speechless. Longtongue had just said that Long Xingyun was a fox who relied on Muyu's spiritual energy to forcibly increase his strength. But when Longtongue attacked, he also relied on Muyu's spiritual energy to forcibly increase his strength. However, Muyu wouldn't stop Longtongue from torturing him. He also didn't like how Long Xingyun was always eyeing Longtongue covetously. He had never taken the initiative to provoke Long Xingyun. Longtongue wanted to kill him for the true dragon bloodline. It wouldn't be too much to let Longtongue humiliate Long Xingyun. Looks like this is a battle for the dignity of the dragon race. I won't participate in the rest of the battle. Xiao Shuai, quickly prepare some melon seeds, fruits, and mineral water. Let's watch the show. Muyu waved his hand and retreated to the corner. Mu Ling had already turned into 2 small stools. Xiao Shuai had already dug out a pile of melon seeds. He threw a handful to Muyu and took out a red apple. Go big earthworm. Xiao Shuai cheered as he took a bite of the apple. Longtongue roared majestically. The dragon's roar was long and majestic. It was like a morning bell that struck Long Xingyun's heart. Long Xingyun felt an inexplicable tremble. Long Xingyun stared at Longtongue. The more he looked at Longtongue's body, the more excited he became. That perfect dragon body made his heart tremble. He wanted nothing more than to pounce on Longtongue and take it for himself. Longtongue felt uncomfortable under Long Xingyun's passionate gaze. He yelled, F***CK. Is this B** start a pervert? Why is he looking at me like that? Isn't the dragon race referring to the dragon race? Hurry up and pull out his tendons. Cut the crap. Xiao Shuai yelled. But my sexual orientation is very normal. Longtongue yelled. His entire body was like a sharp sword, piercing toward Long Xingyun. Chapter 652. When Dragonvine used the wind-wind-heart linking formation, all of its spiritual power came from Muyu's body. Therefore, it didn't have to worry about running out of spiritual power. Instead, it was having a good time. After all, it was Muyu's spiritual power that was being drained. Although Muyu was watching from the side, he was also paying attention to Dragonvine's condition. After all, Dragonvine was only in the out-of-body stage. Even with Muyu's help, it would still be at a disadvantage when facing Long Xingyun. A true dragon and a false dragon collided, causing an earth-shattering sound to erupt. The dragon's might was vast and mighty as it surged forward, crashing into the surrounding pagoda. The formation under Muyu's feet surged, isolating all of the spiritual power. He wasn't affected by the two of them. Dragonvine's spiritual power was obviously pure, but its spiritual power was slightly weaker. However, Muyu's formation kept him safe, so Dragonvine wouldn't be defeated. The two dragons tangled together in the most primitive way in the air. Their sharp claws clashed with each other, creating a sharp whistling sound. The spiritual chi around them became extremely hot. Long Xingyun's fighting ability still had the upper hand. After all, he was the little prince of the dragon race. He had received systematic cultivation and was most familiar with primitive fighting. He had 90% of the real dragon bloodline. Other than his head, his entire body had turned into a real dragon. His fighting ability was already extraordinary. Dragonvine had been following Muyu ever since it turned into a dragon. Other than bickering with little Shuai, it would absorb some of Muyu's spiritual power to cultivate. Usually, when it fought with beasts, it would only roar. It didn't have much fighting experience, so Dragonvine was at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Dragonvine had sword chi. In the process of fighting with Long Xingyun, Dragonvine's body was very nimble and sharp. It could always turn danger into safety at the most appropriate moment. Big earthworm, use your horn to hit it. Its branches aren't as powerful as yours. Little Shuai suggested loudly. Dragonvine's horns were like two sharp spears covered in sword chi. They created a gust of wind in the air and went for Long Xingyun's neck. Long Xingyun was also relying on his dragon scale vital energy to protect himself. He completely ignored Dragonvine's horns and grabbed the opportunity to grab Dragonvine's neck. Chi! Dragonvine's neck was scratched by Long Xingyun, leaving a deep gash. Even the tough dragon scales were shattered. However, when Dragonvine's dragon horn touched Dragon Starfall, it only created a spark. Dragon Starfall was completely unscathed. Long Xingyun's claws were still stained with Dragonvine's blood. It looked at the blood on its claws with fanaticism. In the end, it couldn't help but put its claws in its mouth and lick them. The blood of a true dragon tastes so good. F*CK, Mother*Ker. What a pervert. Dragonvine was already humiliated by having his neck scratched. Now that Long Xingyun had provoked him, he was about to explode. It roared and unleashed a violent dragon breath. It turned into a long sword and pierced toward Long Xingyun with a powerful aura. Your sword can't hurt me. Long Xingyun sneered and swallowed Dragonvine's dragon breath. Pure dragon essence. Not bad. Long Xingyun licked his lips. Little Shuai spat out the melon seeds in his mouth and said in shock, "Is he an idiot?" He even swallowed the giant earthworm spit. "Oh my god, I'm so disgusted." Dragonvine realized that it couldn't do anything to Long Xingyun, whether it was physical combat or dragon breath. It was getting more and more frustrated. Its self-esteem had been greatly damaged. It was a true dragon, but it couldn't beat a fake dragon. It was extremely humiliating. "I hate bastards the most." The Dragonvine angrily roared. Its eyes were already suffused with a strange green light. A violent dragon essence suddenly soared from its body. This dragon essence was very chaotic. It rampaged within its body, impatiently wanting to find a breakthrough point to pour out. The wind-wind-heart linking formation allowed Muyu and Dragonvine to communicate telepathically. Muyu didn't remember Dragonvine having such a restless dragon essence. It seemed to be produced when Dragonvine was angered. This dragon essence was too powerful. It was not something Dragonvine could control. "Hey, the giant earthworm seems to be evolving. Is it going to evolve?" Little Shuai continued to eat his melon seeds curiously. "Evolve?" Muyu frowned. When Dragonvine first transformed into a dragon, because it was in a weak stage, its cultivation was only equivalent to a nascent soul stage cultivator. After it fully recovered, its strength stabilized at the out-of-body stage. After that, it didn't improve anymore. Muyu guessed that Dragonvine's strength improved slowly because true dragons were too powerful. The requirements for evolving were very harsh, which made it very difficult for them to break through. In the past, Muyu didn't care about Dragonvine's strength. After all, he could deal with many things by himself. But now that the people of the Azure Dragon Dynasty had their eyes on it, Dragonvine couldn't continue to idle around. It had to have some ability to protect itself. If Dragonvine could evolve in today's battle, it would naturally be the best thing. A powerful green light burst out from the Dragonvine's body. Every dragon scale on its body opened up, and ancient and powerful patterns slowly appeared on the dragon scales like carvings. Every dragon scale had a circle of beautiful ripples around it, making the originally ordinary scales become incomparably gorgeous. Originally, the two horns on its head were like ordinary deer antlers, but at this moment, there were majestic carvings on the dragon horns. The carvings were overflowing with light, and the Dragonvine's aura increased by a large margin. Dragonvine's domineering aura soared into the sky again. It swept through every corner of the tower, including Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun saw the ancient carvings on Dragonvine scales. His eyes instantly turned blood red. Dragon carvings, you can actually activate the carvings on all of your scales. Long Xingyun roared with jealousy. His body also lit up with black light, and the black scales on his body also changed slightly. There were faint lines, but there were only less than 10 dragon scales with lines. It was completely incomparable to the dragon scales on Long Tongue's body. Do you have to be so surprised? I'm a real dragon. Dragon Vine's eyes were like green pearls. They were extremely clear, but they also flashed with a cold light. Its body shook. It had become a rank 6 demonic beast. Dragon Vine roared. The vital energy in its body turned into a surging dragon's breath and blasted it toward Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun still chose to take it head-on. He was fearless because he had the Green Dragon King's dragon scale vital energy. But this time he was wrong. After evolving, Dragon Vine's aura had already reached a new level. It originally relied on Mu Yu's aura to barely fight Long Xingyun. But after becoming a rank 6 demonic beast, it had long surpassed Long Xingyun with the help of Mu Yu's aura. The dragon's breath was extremely powerful. It smashed down like a landslide. The dragon's breath turned into a sharp sword chi and instantly pierced through Long Xingyun's body. Long Xingyun's body stopped in midair. He looked at the big hole in his body in shock. He didn't understand why he couldn't block Dragon Vine's attack, even though he had the Green Dragon King's dragon scale to protect him. No matter how powerful the Green Dragon King's dragon scale was, it was only one piece. Long Xingyun used it all over his body, which naturally weakened the dragon scale's power. In addition, Long Xingyun had already used the dragon scale to fight Mu Yu. His vital energy had already been depleted by more than half. Now that Dragon Vine had evolved into a rank 6 demonic beast, how could he block the combined attack of Mu Yu and Dragon Vine? Bang! Long Xingyun's body fell heavily to the ground. He had transformed back into his human form. There was a big, bloody hole in his abdomen, but it wasn't fatal. He breathed heavily and stared at Dragon Vine with hatred. His aura was gradually weakening. It's our responsibility to crack down on fakes. Dragon Vine's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The dragon patterns on its scales flickered again. All the light gathered at its head. An even more powerful dragon's breath was formed inside its body. Then, the dragon's breath blasted down. However, at this moment, a shadow appeared in front of Long Xingyun and blocked Dragon Vine's dragon's breath. Young Master Xingyun, are you all right? Long Yeli suddenly appeared on this floor. He blocked Dragon Vine's attack and quickly flashed to Long Xingyun's side. He looked at Dragon Vine in shock. When he saw the dragon patterns on Dragon Vine's body, his pupils shrank. As a member of the dragon race, he couldn't be more familiar with the dragon patterns. Do you want to die as well? Dragon Vine stared at Long Yeli, who suddenly appeared and attacked again. In order to protect Long Xingyun, Long Yeli went forward. Mu Yu's eyes turned cold. He had already appeared in front of Long Yeli. When Long Yeli saw Mu Yu, his heart skipped a beat. Back then, he had lost to Mu Yu in the Battle of the Bone Warriors. That incident still left a shadow in his heart. However, it was too late to stop now. Long Yeli could only take a punch from Mu Yu and retreated to Long Xingyun's side. Should we call for help? We have a lot of helpers here. Little Shuai held the sunflower seeds and landed on Mu Yu's shoulder. Its body was already emitting blue electric sparks. Long Yeli looked at Mu Yu and then at Dragon Vine. Without saying anything, he picked up Long Xingyun and rushed to the exit below. You want to run? Dragon Vine wanted to chase after him, but Mu Yu stopped Dragon Vine. Mu Yu frowned and said, "Don't try to show off. You're in a terrible condition right now. Hurry up and recover." Dragon Vine had just evolved. Although it had activated some of its potential as a true dragon, it hadn't stabilized its realm yet. It forcefully exchanged a blow with Long Xingyun. It seemed that it had won fair and square, but in fact, it was Mu Yu who had helped it in the dark. I don't like bastards. Dragon Vine's body gradually shrank. Its breathing also became chaotic. It lay on Mu Yu's shoulder and muttered, "It's useless even if you don't like it. Our target this time is the people from the Gate of Hell. Save your energy to deal with the people from the Gate of Hell. Let me help you stabilize your cultivation first." Although Mu Yu really wanted to kill Long Xingyun so that he wouldn't come looking for trouble, Dragon Vine wasn't in a good condition right now. He was worried that something would happen to Dragonvine, so he gave up the idea of chasing after him. He carefully checked Dragonvine's current condition. He found that Dragonvine's meridians were also damaged. These meridians had exploded because it had forcefully used more power than its body could bear. Moreover, it had just evolved and was still very weak. Muyu transferred his spiritual energy into Dragonvine's body to repair Dragonvine's meridians. His spiritual energy was black and white, but this strange state only existed in his body. As long as the black and white spiritual energy didn't separate, it would turn into a normal green color when it left his body. It had a strong vitality and could heal people. Dragonvine's injuries quickly stabilized. Now, it only needed a rest for a while to recover. Muyu stood up and walked to the exit. He glanced at the exit and suddenly found that something was wrong. The number 19 was written above the exit. Wait, didn't we just go up from 27? Shouldn't this floor be 28? Why is it 19 now? Chapter 653. Enlightened Master Xianjizi didn't tell Muyu much about the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. He did say that if Muyu wanted to control the pagoda, he would have to rely on his own understanding. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to take on the responsibility of saving the world. Muyu didn't want to be the savior of the world. As long as he was happy doing what he wanted to do, that was good enough. But enlightened Master Xianjizi didn't give him a chance to explain, so Muyu didn't have time to ask for more details. We just went from the 27th floor to the 19th. What's going on? Muyu stopped at the entrance of the passage. He thought for a moment, then decided to walk down the passage. He walked past a curtain of water and came to a place where he couldn't see his own fingers. He turned his head and used the shadow sword light to look at the passage they came from. This time, the passage had the number 39 written on it. Strange. Are we going to randomly walk around like this? Little Shuai asked curiously. Muyu found it strange as well. The entrance and exit of a Yao Ceiling Pagoda seemed to change at any time. How were they supposed to get to the 81st floor? Were they supposed to stay here and try their luck? Let's see what's on this floor first. Why do I feel so scared? Dragonvine muttered. It was pitch black all around. Gusts of chilly wind were blowing from an unknown place, making their bodies feel chilly. Moreover, from time to time, strange whispers could be heard coming from the darkness. It sounded like something was grinding its teeth, making one's hair stand on end. God says, "Let there be light." Little Shuai snapped his fingers, and a few luminous pearls floated out of his hand. The gentle light dispelled the darkness and illuminated the area before them. They seemed to have arrived in a prison. All sorts of iron bars came into view. The bars glowed with a cold light, and there were streams of light flashing across them. But they couldn't see what was behind the bars. Muyu approached the bars on the right. He wanted to let the light shine through to see what was behind the bars, but he found that there were runes on the bars that repelled him. The light couldn't shine in too much, so he couldn't see what was behind the bars. However, Muyu still felt a sense of danger, as if something unknown was hiding in the darkness behind the fence. Muyu moved all the luminous pearls in the air over, intending to let more light shine into the iron fence. However, the darkness behind the iron fence seemed to be able to swallow the light from the luminous pearls. Muyu still couldn't see anything behind the iron fence. Just as Muyu was wondering if he was hallucinating, he suddenly heard a bang as a horn hit the iron fence. Following that, an ugly and disgusting face appeared in front of him. It was an extremely distorted face, as if it had been scalded by boiling water. It had not completely healed, and layers of rotten flesh were stuck to its face. There were even red feathers growing out of its face. Its mouth was thin and long like a crack. Damn it, it's a flesh-winged horn monster. Little Handsome shouted in disgust. This is a real flesh-winged horn monster, not an illusion. Muyu never expected to see a flesh-winged horn monster here. He didn't know much about the flesh-winged horn monsters. He only knew that they didn't belong to this world. The 10 Demon Kings were also sealed because of these ugly creatures. The specific truth was still unknown. The flesh-winged horn monsters had different colors. Muyu saw the flesh-winged horn monster in the Sky Burial Valley of the Moyen Mountain Range was red, but this one was orange. Human. I haven't seen a human for thousands of years. How nostalgic. The flesh-winged horned monster in front of him laughed eerily. Is it a lowly human? Sure enough, it's an ant. Let's go. Following that, the fences all around them were banging against each other. Countless flesh-winged horned monsters squeezed to the edge of the fence and smiled eerily at Muyu. Their eyes were full of contempt and anger, and their ugly faces were full of arrogance. More and more banging sounds were heard. Muyu realized that there were countless flesh-winged horned monsters locked in the fences here. The flesh-winged horned monsters of different colors were locked up separately. Each of them looked very weak. Perhaps because they had been locked up for a long time, their auras were at most at the spirit-severing stage. There were even some at the out-of-body stage. Was it that bastard Xian Jizi who sent you? A yellow flesh-winged horned monster asked darkly. No, he has the sword chi of Jian Ing Chunfeng on him. He's Jian Ing Chunfeng's successor. Jian Ing Chunfeng. Sooner or later, I'll cut him into pieces. He actually stopped our Moon Clan's plan to destroy the third heaven and locked us up in this dark place for 5,000 years. I'll never let him go. All the flesh-winged horned monsters began to speak ruthlessly, as if they had an irreconcilable hatred for Jian Ing Chunfeng. Their anger was monstrous, as if their ancestral graves had been dug up. Muyu looked at these flesh-winged horned monsters with disgust and said, "You monsters are really disgusting. Who doesn't know how to speak ruthlessly? Let's see if he can come out first." Kid, don't be so arrogant. The first thing we'll do when we come out is to kill all of you humans. Then we'll wipe out the Devil Clan. If Yumon is willing to cooperate. No, you have Yumon's aura on you. A purple flesh-winged horned monster said in shock. All the flesh-winged horned monsters noticed this and began to suspect Mu Yu's identity. Although Yumon look like humans, their aura is very recognizable. This kid is not only Yumon, he's also human. Strange, since when can humans and Yumon reproduce? I remember that among the 3 races in the third heaven, only Yumon can't reproduce with other races. Kid, where did you come from? Who are your parents? All the flesh-winged horned monsters questioned loudly. Their tone was arrogant, and they interrogated Mu Yu as if he was a criminal. Mu Yu looked at this group of self-righteous fellows with disgust. It was this group of monsters that had destroyed the second layer of heaven. He still did not know where this group of monsters came from or why they had destroyed the second layer of heaven. However, from the images that Taoist Master Xianjizi had shown Mu Yu, she could tell that the group of disgusting monsters seemed to be suppressing the second and third layer demon kings. The white ape demon king wanted to resist, but unfortunately, he was unable to do so. Do you want to know who my parents are? Mu Yu asked calmly. That's right. Tell us your parents' names. A blue flesh-winged horned monster shouted arrogantly. My father is called the Wood Emperor, my mother is called the Bamboo Queen, and I have a godfather called the Deadwood King. Mu Yu smiled. Wood Emperor, Bamboo Queen, Deadwood King? Who are these 3? I've never heard of them. Is your father Yumon or your mother Yumon? The flesh-winged horned monster's face was full of arrogance. He looked at Mu Yu as if he was an inferior race. You don't even know them? You really are ignorant. Mu Yu sneered. Is he a famous human? Other than Jianing and Chunfeng, I've never been afraid of anyone in the human race. Of course they're famous. When Yu clan people see them, you have to call them old masters. Tell me, what should you call me? Mu Yu asked. Little master? A candid flesh-winged horned monster blurted out. Yes. Good boy. Little commander, give this dog a bone. Mu Yu smiled. The flesh-winged horned monsters were really stupid. Little commander generously threw all the melon seed shells over. Bastard, how dare you humiliate us? Despicable race, I'll definitely kill you. All the flesh-winged horned monsters loudly cursed, but Mu Yu spat out a mouthful of phlegm in disgust. You bunch of monsters are as ugly as latrine stones. Where did you get the confidence to show off your superiority in front of me? Stay here obediently. Since these flesh-winged horned monsters were imprisoned in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, Mu Yu was sure that when these monsters wanted to invade the third layer of heaven, they were captured by his master with his powerful cultivation. Master Xianjizi was in charge of watching over them. As for why his master didn't kill these flesh-winged horn monsters, he probably had some misgivings. This was because when Phantom Rain sealed the White Ape Demon King, she had told the White Ape Demon King that he shouldn't kill these flesh-winged horn monsters. A while ago, the White Ape Demon King had heard about Akatsuki. Before leaving, he had said that the flesh-winged horn monsters wouldn't die so easily. A thought emerged in Muyu's mind. Could it be that the flesh-winged horn monsters were imprisoned here because they couldn't be killed? Master Xianjizi had cast a powerful formation domain on these fences. Muyu's hand couldn't reach in. The iron fences were protected by formation patterns. These patterns couldn't be broken even by Muyu, let alone these flesh-winged horn monsters, whose auras were weaker than Muyu's. Muyu kicked the fence and shouted, "Quiet down. As prisoners, you should have the consciousness of a prisoner. Spend the rest of your life in there and don't come out to talk." After saying this, he ignored the curses of the flesh-winged, horned monsters and walked along the passage between the fences. This was indeed a prison. The square cages were formed by fences. The cages stretched all the way to the ceiling. Each cage was side by side, leaving a crisscrossing path. It was like a maze. Muyu would see a fork in the road every time he walked. Countless flesh-winged, horned monsters were imprisoned in the cages. When they saw Muyu approaching, they roared, but Muyu ignored them all. Muyu walked around the passage between each cage for a long time. He secretly estimated the number of cages and the number of flesh-winged horned monsters in each cage. He found that there were at least tens of thousands of flesh-winged horned monsters imprisoned on the 39th floor of the Yao Subduing Pagoda. This made him very alarmed. He had fought with a flesh-winged horned monster before. When Akatsuki had just escaped, it was already very powerful. Although it was later defeated by Muyu with thunder, the White Ape Demon King said that Akatsuki would not die so easily. Although the aura of the flesh-winged horned monsters imprisoned here was weak, it should be because they had not been exposed to spiritual chi for a long time. If they were allowed to recover, the consequences would be unimaginable. Every flesh-winged horned monster here was at least at the out-of-body stage. Most of them were at the spirit-severing stage. Muyu even saw hundreds of flesh-winged horned monsters at the combination stage. There were also some whose aura was weak, but their cultivation was still above the combination stage. If they were in their heyday, Muyu was sure that their strength was enough to overturn the entire third heaven. If these tens of thousands of flesh-winged horned monsters attacked the third heaven, with the current strength of the third heaven cultivation world, it was absolutely impossible to resist. There is such a big secret hidden here. Muyu was quite shocked. Compared to the current situation of the cultivation world, the flesh-winged horned monsters here worried Muyu more. It turns out that the third heavenly layer has already escaped the calamity. Unfortunately, the current cultivation world doesn't know about this. Muyu gently shook her head. What infuriated Muyu the most was that the flesh-winged horned monsters were so powerful that they could affect the survival of the third sky races. However, the third sky palaces by Jie had, for his own selfish reasons, harmed the third sky's savior, Jianing Chun Feng. By Jie, you selfish scum! Muyu shouted in a low voice. Muyu, the White Ape Demon King, said that Akatsuki would not die so easily. Then, wouldn't Akatsuki be resurrected? Long Tongue asked. Akatsuki. Muyu suddenly thought of a very serious problem. Because there was no way to kill these flesh-winged horned monsters, they were imprisoned here. However, if the flesh-winged horned monsters could not be killed, then wouldn't there be a fish that escaped the net outside? Chapter 654. Muyu continued to walk through the prison's passageways. Along the way, he saw more and more flesh-winged horned monsters. These monsters looked like they had come to invade the third heaven over 5,000 years ago, but they had all been locked up here by Taoist Master Xianjizi. The monsters had been locked up for so many years without dying. Their vitality was also very tenacious. It was hard to imagine that such undying, ugly monsters existed in this world. The entire prison's passageways extended in all directions. Muyu walked back and forth in the crisscrossing passageways, and finally found an exit. The flesh-winged horned monsters kept cursing Muyu, but Muyu ignored them and left the prison. Not long after Muyu left the prison of the flesh-winged horned monsters, a ghostly figure silently appeared in the prison. It was Gue Han, the body integration stage cultivator of the ghost sect that Muyu had met in the Moyun mountain range. After seeing the monsters around him, Gue Han's face lit up with joy. "I've finally found where the moon god is locked up. Now I can report back to my superiors." A cold light flashed in Gue Han's eyes. After Muyu passed through the passageway, he found himself on the 24th floor. The exits of each floor of the Yao ceiling pagoda didn't seem to follow the normal order. This kind of random teleportation made him very anxious because he didn't know when he would reach the 81st floor. Don't worry. After Gue Han enters the Yao ceiling pagoda, he might not be so lucky as to be teleported directly to the 81st floor, Little Commander said. What if? Long Tongue yawned. What if? What if? Luck favors those who are handsome. You can't go wrong following me, Little Commander said righteously. This time, they were in a brightly lit hall. In the middle of the hall, there were several thick red pillars supporting the ceiling. The simple decorations were pleasing to the eye, and the various reliefs on the walls were vivid and lifelike. When they walked into the hall, their whole body felt warm and comfortable. It was impossible to tell what this hall was used for, but the floor had strange patterns. The patterns were orderly and intertwined with each other. It was different from the formation patterns that Muyu was familiar with. The ceiling was also engraved with light yellow veins, which seemed to correspond to the veins on the ground. It was also suffused with a faint brilliance, overflowing with light and color, and incomparably holy. Little Handsome, do you know what these patterns represent? Muyu asked as he carefully studied the patterns. The veins seemed to follow a certain pattern, but Muyu wasn't sure of the mystery behind it. Xiao Shuai looked at the ground thoughtfully and said, "It's a little familiar, but I can't remember what it is." "This is a type of ceremonial text," Dragonvine said. "Funeral rites? The demon race's sacrificial rites?" Muyu asked curiously. No matter how he looked at it, he didn't think that these textures were words. Instead, they looked like decorations. However, the flickering light on these textures made them look extraordinary. "I don't know if they're the phase ritual, but I feel like they have a mysterious power. It's like they're used to communicate with something. Anyway, I'm not sure," Dragonvine said. "Can you translate it?" Dragonvine flew into the sky and circled around. "Let me see. If I read it from here, it should be, with the servant's blood spirit, sacrifice to the god's light. Cover the world with peace. Believe in obsession, and you will live forever." What does that mean? Xiao Shuai was a little confused by the words. "It means that you will gain eternal life if you believe in Brother Spring." Muyu understood. The second half is, the moon god will rule the world. Blessings will fill the world. Souls will return to the heavens, and they will be reincarnated. Those who disobey the moon will have their souls scattered in the sky. There will be no protection. The world will beg for souls. Every soul has a home. The moon's wrath cannot be underestimated. What does that mean? Xiao Shuai was confused. Muyu coldly grunted. It means the moon is a brainwashing cult. He could tell from this passage that this palace seemed to be specially used to carry out some kind of sacrifice, used to consecrate the Moon Clan. Those who disobey the moon will have their souls scattered in the sky. Those who disobey the moon must die. If this wasn't a cult, Muyu couldn't think of anything else. Long Tongue continued to chant, but the difference was that this time, the scripture in Long Tongue's mouth was no longer translated. Instead, it made a very awkward sound. As Long Tongue inadvertently chanted, the texture on the ground began to emit a seven-colored light, from red, orange, yellow, all the way to purple. At the same time, there was the sound of rolling thunder. It was accompanied by an oppressive aura. The surrounding spirit energy became restless. Outside the Yao ceiling pagoda, the originally calm sky was suddenly filled with dark clouds. A terrifying pressure spread out from the clouds. The clouds flickered with purple lightning. The purple lightning streaked across the sky, carrying with it the power to destroy heaven and earth. The expressions of all the Yao souls on the Yao island suddenly changed, especially Helion Kong. He cried out in surprise, then turned to Gue Yezi and asked, Gue Yezi, what exactly did you let your descendant do in the Yao ceiling pagoda? Why is there purple lightning in the sky? Gue Yezi's eyes flashed with surprise. He looked at the purple lightning in the sky, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Gue Yezi sneered. How would I know what's hidden in the suppressing demon tower? Didn't Master Xian Jizi trust you the most? Didn't he tell you there was something dangerous in the suppressing demon tower? Helion Kong gritted his teeth. His expression was unreadable. He suddenly regretted opening the suppressing demon tower. However, the strange phenomenon above the demon island didn't last long. The Jinyao pagoda trembled, and a majestic blue light soared into the sky from the Jinyao pagoda. It instantly dispersed the dark clouds above the demon island, and the purple lightning also disappeared. The suppressing demon tower seemed to be preventing something from happening. Dragon Vine, stop chanting. Muyu felt that something was wrong. Just now, the powerful aura of the suppressing demon tower flashed, and then the sound of rolling thunder disappeared. However, the changes in the palace continued. The seven colored lights seemed to be frantically searching for some connection, but they couldn't find it after a long time. They were like headless flies. Muyu hurriedly stopped Dragon Vine, interrupting its chanting. Dragon Vine stopped and looked around in surprise. It felt very strange. At this time, the ground was no longer flat. Some of the lines on the ground had begun to rise and become uneven. The lines on the ceiling were the opposite of the ground. When the lines on the ground rose, the ceiling would sink. As Dragon Vine stopped chanting, all the colorful lights gradually disappeared. Those protruding and sunken lines also slowly returned to their original state. What's going on? Big Earthworm, why didn't you translate just now? Little Shuai asked. I can't translate it. It's just a string of simple sounds without any specific meaning. It seems to be used to summon these things. Also, it's very strange. When I thought of these things, I seemed to enter a very strange state. If Muyu didn't call me, I wouldn't have been able to come back at all, Dragon Vine said, puzzled. Muyu walked around the lines on the ground and said, You probably started some kind of ritual just now. I don't know what this ritual is for now, but it's definitely not a good thing. He didn't easily walk into the lines. Instead, he walked to the wall and looked at the reliefs. At first, Muyu thought that the patterns on the reliefs were the posture of cultivators flying in the air. However, he soon discovered many abnormal places. The reliefs here were divided into two layers. The outermost layer was the posture of cultivators flying in the air. However, upon closer inspection, it wasn't just cultivators. There were also demons and Yumon. The second layer of reliefs had both men and women. The men were valiant and impressive. The women were elegant and beautiful like fairies. They were like gods in the sky. They were all quietly looking at the three flying races. There was a faint smile at the corner of their mouths. Little Shuai made a soft sound of surprise, as if he had thought of something. Then he reached out his little paw and gently poked the cultivators on the reliefs. All of a sudden, the relief sculpture seemed to come alive as it began to spin. All of the self-cultivators, demons, and yumming devils flew towards the godlike people behind them with smiles on their faces. Those people also opened their arms as if they were welcoming the three races. Those are the disguises of the flesh-winged horned monsters. Little Shuai was quick to react. A sharp blade, as thin as a cicada's wing, popped out of his hand and stabbed at the valiant gods. The faces of the statues immediately turned ferocious. They all transformed into the flesh-winged horned monsters and dodged Little Shuai's sharp blade. One of the flesh-winged horned monsters couldn't dodge in time and was directly cut in half by Little Shuai. The flesh-winged horned monsters began to laugh strangely. They actually grabbed the humans, demons, and Yumon that were flying towards them and tore them into pieces before swallowing them into their stomachs. Soon, all the cultivators, Yumon, and demons were eaten by the flesh-winged horned monsters. They roared angrily at little Shuai, but didn't make a sound. After spinning in a circle, all the statues gradually returned to their original forms. The other three races that had been eaten reappeared. The flesh-winged horn monsters also transformed back into godlike figures and looked at the other three races. The reliefs were really too strange. They repeated their original movements over and over again. Muyu couldn't help but wonder what this place was. Do these flesh-winged horn monsters eat us as food? Muyu said in disgust. He thought of Akatsuki in Mass Burial Valley. That disgusting flesh-winged horn monster imprisoned all the corpses and souls in its yellow spring corpse water, becoming a part of its body. However, there must be some special restrictions. Muyu remembered that Akatsuki couldn't kill people who died of unnatural causes. In other words, these flesh-winged horn monsters were actually eating the dead. Since there are sacrificial rites here, I'm afraid this place is used to summon the flesh-winged horn monsters. We have to be careful and not make the same mistake as before. Muyu looked around. This palace was probably not simple. It probably had something to do with the Moon Clan. Earlier, Dragon Vine accidentally triggered some kind of sacrificial rites. However, the Yao Ceiling Pagoda seemed to have blocked the connection, causing the colorful light of the sacrificial rites to be a little chaotic. If he guessed correctly, even if Dragon Vine finished chanting the sacrificial rites, nothing would happen. Enlightened Master Xianjizi had sealed this palace in his Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Clearly, he didn't want it to be used by others and cause irreversible consequences. Let's leave this place, Dragon Vine suggested. Muyu nodded. There was only one way out of this level, and that was the way in. He thought about it again and again. In the end, he set up an illusion formation at the entrance of this level to hide the palace. At this time, many people appeared in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. They might have been transported to this level. Enlightened Master Xianjizi didn't deliberately protect this palace because the sacrificial rites couldn't be carried out in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. However, Muyu still felt that it was necessary to prevent people from entering. He walked back in the direction he came from and left the 24th floor. However, Muyu didn't expect that far away from the Yao Ceiling Island, in a three-layered palace near the land of reincarnation, Baijier raised his head and looked into the sky as if he sensed something. Chapter 655. This time, it was the 65th floor. Muyu felt like he was aimlessly trying his luck. He went from the 39th floor to the 24th floor, but when he returned, he was already on the 65th floor. When can we go to the 81st floor? Little Marshall asked. Muyu could only hope that Gue Shiming had not reached the 81st floor. Otherwise, after Gue Shiming gained control of the reincarnation seal, he could go back in time and see where Soul Destination was. To be honest, Muyu also wanted to know where Soul Return to Heart was because Taoist Master Xianjizi had told him that Soul Return to Heart could heal the wounds on Deadwood's father's soul. Therefore, Muyu planned to go back to the past with Gue Shiming and see where Soul Return to Heart was before Gue Shiming. The 65th floor was a long corridor. Muyu was not interested in the corridor. He just wanted to go to the 81st floor. Therefore, he did not explore what was on the 65th floor. Instead, he went back through the corridor. However, he still miscalculated. He was surprised to find that he was still on the 24th floor when he went back. It was the same bright hall. That's strange. Isn't it random this time? Dragon Vine asked in surprise. Muyu thought for a moment. He waited in the hall for an hour before going back to the corridor. This time, he came to the 75th floor. The 75th floor was an ordinary tower. It was empty. Clearly, not every floor had something. Muyu thought about the number of floors he had just walked through. He suddenly felt that there was a pattern to where the exits led to. I understand. The exits of every floor lead to different floors at different times. Muyu sat down and started calculating his mind. He roughly estimated the time he spent on the 18th floor. He spent about 2 hours fighting Long Xingyun. He also estimated the time he spent on the 39th floor. He spent about 4 hours checking on the flesh-winged horn monster on the 39th floor. He spent about 2 hours in the hall. Just based on these, he still couldn't figure out where each floor's passageway would lead. After waiting for a quarter of an hour, he walked towards the passageway again. This time, it was on the 11th floor. In order to understand the rules of this passage, Muyu spent another 2 hours shuttling through each floor, recording the time and place of each floor. The Yao ceiling pagoda had 99 floors. Actually, it was possible to deduce which floor the exit of each floor connected to at any given moment. However, this method of calculation was rather complicated. Taoist Master Xianjizi was a formation master. Naturally, he designed the Yao ceiling pagoda through deduction. The main body of a formation master was the 8 trigrams. The position calculation of the 8 trigrams was very complicated. Therefore, in order to become a powerful formation master, one had to possess extraordinary deduction thinking. Muyu had once deduced the rules of the array hall's heavenly stairway and used the 8 steps to ascend the heavens to enter the array hall. His deduction ability could be said to be second to none. I know the rules of this Yao ceiling pagoda. Muyu analyzed a bunch of things. After spending nearly 14 to 16 hours, he finally understood the main points. At this moment, they were on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was a dense forest. The forest was filled with the sounds of insects and birds. In the distance, there were even the roars of demonic beasts. It was very lively. Muyu could tell at a glance that this forest was an illusion formation. As for what was hidden in this forest, Muyu was no longer interested. He stood at the entrance of a huge tree hole and looked at the birds flapping their wings in the forest. He estimated the time. Just now, he had come out from this tree hole. If he wanted to leave later, he would also have to go through this tree hole. In theory, after 20 hours and 45 minutes, the 3rd floor will lead to the 81st floor. However, 20 hours is too long for us to wait. So, we'll change the path. After 2 hours and a quarter of an hour, the 3rd floor will lead to the 73rd floor. On the 73rd floor, we'll wait for an hour to lead to the 16th floor. As for the 16th floor, we just have to time it right. Because at that time, the passage to the 16th floor will start to change. So, as soon as we enter, we'll immediately run out and reach the 81st floor. Muyu had already planned out the following path. Although it was a lot more troublesome to continue walking like this, they would be able to reach the 81st floor in less than 4 hours. Little Shuai understood. The dragon vine was confused. However, it didn't care. In any case, it didn't need to bother with this kind of thing. Muyu was the one who ran the errands. Muyu waited outside the tree hole for 2 hours. After a quarter of an hour, he went back into the tree hole. As expected, he had arrived at the 73rd floor. This proved that Muyu's calculation was correct. Next, they just had to wait for an hour on the 73rd floor, and they would be able to reach the 16th floor. The 73rd floor was a place covered in white snow. Muyu just happened to come out of a small wooden hut. The hut was built at the foot of a mountain. There was white snow everywhere. Behind the hut was a snowy mountain, and in front of it was a white plain. I feel like we've traveled all over the world in enlightened Master Xianjizi's Yao ceiling pagoda. Does this count as a kind of vacation? The dragon vine said leisurely. Many floors of the Yao ceiling pagoda were set up with many illusion formations. There were forests, snowy mountains, plains, and everything else. There were even prisons and cult palaces. It was indeed like traveling everywhere. According to Muyu's theory, the exit of each floor was a kind of teleportation formation. The teleportation formation would connect to different floors at different times. Some floors had 2 exits, while others only had 1. There was a certain pattern to this, and Muyu had figured it all out. Anyway, we've been to quite a few places. This kind of illusion formation is no big deal. Muyu sat on the roof of the hut and looked at the snowy mountain behind him. It was quite a unique scene. However, Muyu didn't even have time to appreciate it for a moment. Suddenly, he saw snowflakes rising from the snowy mountain in the distance. There were also fluctuations of spiritual energy. It seemed like someone was fighting fiercely. Should we go and join the fun? Xiao Shuai was originally gnawing on a chicken drumstick, but the drumstick soon froze in the snow. He was very unhappy. At this moment, He was holding a pill firestone to roast the drumstick. Why should we join the fun? We'll leave when the time is up. To be able to fight here, it must be the demons and the people of the gate of hell. They can fight among themselves. It has nothing to do with us. Muyu didn't want to get involved in this mess. After entering the Yao ceiling pagoda, everyone was randomly teleported to any floor. There must have been people on this floor long ago, but they didn't know the secrets of the Yao ceiling pagoda, so they ran around randomly on each floor. Muyu was just a transfer point. However, at this moment, the fluctuations of a body integration stage cultivator came from the snowy mountain in the distance. The damage caused by a body integration stage cultivator couldn't be underestimated. Their fight directly shaved off the snowy mountain. Then, a rumbling sound came from the snowy mountain. A large amount of snow rolled down the mountain. Damn! Avalanche! Don't you have any morals? You're just fighting and you're causing an avalanche. Don't you want to go out? Muyu stood up. He originally wanted to try to protect the small wooden house, but the speed of the snow rolling down was too fast. Muyu couldn't stop it at all. Although it was an illusion array, everything in the illusion array was actually formed by spiritual energy. It was very aggressive. Muyu could only pick up Xiao Shuai, who was roasting the drumstick, and jump high. At the same time, the small wooden house was buried in the snow. The people in the distance were still happily fighting. Muyu was already furious at the foot of the snowy mountain. You bastards, remember this. Don't let me find out who you are. Otherwise, I'll definitely beat you up. Muyu's spiritual energy suddenly shook out, and the snow that buried the small wooden house was pushed away. However, after he cleaned up the snow that buried the small wooden house had already become broken wood. If the small wooden house was made of real wood, he could still control the wood and make them rebuild the small wooden house. Unfortunately, Muyu's small wooden house was also fake. Muyu looked at the broken wood on the ground and was dumbfounded. The passage that he came in seemed to have been destroyed. Don't be, right? This is just an illusion array. Muyu had just walked through the passage. At the end of the passage was a door. He pushed the door open and walked out of the small wooden house. If he wanted to go back, he could directly enter the small wooden house. However, the small wooden house was destroyed, and Muyu couldn't find the exit. Muyu carefully felt the array of the small wooden house. His heart thumped. He found that the exit of this place had really disappeared. F***CK your roast chicken and roast duck. Damn it, I want to see which bastard created this avalanche. Muyu didn't say anything and directly flew towards the towering snowy mountain. Then he landed in front of the two sides that were confronting each other. The demon race, Boss Lu and the dragon turtle. The people from the gate of hell, Gue Han, and another woman from the gate of hell. The woman beside Gue Han was called Gue Dai. Her face was covered with a black veil, and her figure was graceful, revealing a strange and cold beauty. However, Muyu didn't appreciate the beauty of the people from the gate of hell. However, this woman's cultivation was also at the unity stage. This time, the people from the gate of hell who came to the demon island were not easy to deal with. Several of them also noticed the arrival of Muyu. This time, the originally desolate, snowy mountain suddenly became lively. It's you. Gue Han gnashed his teeth and looked at Muyu. Previously, because of Muyu, he was almost killed by Gue Yeming. Now, seeing Muyu, he was already burning with anger. Compared to the reaction of the people from the gate of hell, Boss Lu was relieved because his relationship with Muyu was obviously better. Just now, who was the one who didn't have eyes and created an avalanche? Are you guys so bored that your balls hurt? Muyu angrily rebuked. You're lucky that the avalanche didn't bury you. Gue Han said indifferently. You want to be taught a lesson? If you want to fight, can't you go somewhere else? Now that the avalanche has blocked the exit, we can't go out anymore. Muyu said, the exit is blocked? We just came out of the small wooden house. Shouldn't the exit be in another place? Boss Lu asked in surprise. It seemed that these people didn't understand that the entrance was actually the exit. In fact, there were usually two entrances in the suppressing demon tower, but some floors only had one exit. The small wooden house was destroyed, which meant that Muyu had to find another exit. You guys are really causing trouble for me. Boss Lu, I'm very busy now. I'll take my leave first. Be careful. If Muyu wasn't in a hurry to go to the 81st floor, he would definitely settle the score with the people from the Gate of Hell. Although Gue Han was filled with killing intent towards Muyu, he didn't think of stopping Muyu. Even Gue Ziming, who had 6 twins, had suffered a great loss at the hands of Muyu. He wouldn't be any better, so he suppressed the hatred in his heart. Gue Han looked at Boss Lu coldly. As for you demons, hand over the sea, calming thousand ruler obediently. Muyu was about to turn when he heard the words, sea, calming thousand ruler. He immediately turned back and looked at Boss Lu in surprise. Sea calming thousand ruler? The treasure of the sea goblin king, Yu Jiang, is in your hands? Chapter 656. Boss Lu looked at Muyu cautiously. He had to be cautious about this. Muyu was a human after all. There was a barrier between him and the demons. The sea calming thousand ruler was the magic treasure of the sea goblin king. The human race would definitely covet it. Muyu, my young friend, I hope you won't interfere in this. I don't want to make things difficult for you. The sea calming thousand ruler belongs to the sea goblin king. I'll protect it, even if I have to die. Boss Lu said firmly. The dragon turtle also looked at Muyu cautiously. The moment Gue Han said, sea calming thousand ruler, Boss Lu and the dragon turtle knew this was not going to end well. They were already having a hard time dealing with Gue Han and Gue Dai. They didn't expect Muyu to come. With Muyu's strength, if he wanted to help the people of the Gate of Hell fight against the demons, Boss Lu and the dragon turtle wouldn't be able to handle it. You found the sea calming thousand ruler? Where did you find it? Is it on this level? Muyu asked again. Yes, we found it on this snow mountain. Why? Are you interested in the sea calming thousand ruler too? Gue Han looked at Muyu coldly. Of course I'm interested. Aren't you talking nonsense? Muyu glanced at Gue Han and then turned to Boss Lu. Hearing Muyu's words, Boss Lu's face turned even paler. He had been attacked by Gue Yeming at sea and had been seriously injured. He hadn't recovered half of his strength yet. When he was fighting against the 2 people of the Gate of Hell at the form synthesis stage, he relied on the soul weapons given by the demon souls on the island. Otherwise, he and the dragon turtle wouldn't have been able to withstand the attacks. Now that Muyu had joined the battle, Boss Lu had no chance of winning. He knew Muyu's potential. He had defeated Long Yeli at the form synthesis stage. In this case, Boss Lu would have to face 3 self-cultivators at the form synthesis stage. Little friend Muyu, for the sake of Lord True Dragon, can you not interfere in this matter? Boss Lu asked earnestly. Muyu looked at Gue Han and Gue Dai and said seriously, No, I must intervene in this matter today. Young friend Muyu, Boss Lu looked a little bitter. Muyu had a real dragon by his side, so he had been very polite to Muyu. But now Muyu wanted to interfere with the 1,000 feet of the sea. This would undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on him. Elder Lu, what should we do now? The dragon turtle also had a demon bone soul weapon in his hand. With the demon bone soul weapon, he could barely fight Ghost Butterfly. However, he was not confident that he could defeat Muyu. Boss Lu shook his head. Now that Muyu had joined the battle, they would be in trouble. Seeing Muyu's attitude, Gue Han smiled hypocritically. So, you're planning to join hands with me? I didn't think that there would be a time when we could let go of our grudges. This is good. You and I will work together to take the 1,000 feet of the sea. As for who will get the treasure in the end, it will be up to fate. According to Gue Han's personality, he would not work together with others. However, Boss Lu and the Dragon Turtle had powerful soul weapons. They came from the leader of the Yao clan and were on the same level as Gue Yezi's. Gue Han's soul weapons could not compare, so it would be very troublesome to take down the 2 Yao clan members. Gue Han planned to borrow Muyu's strength first. After killing the 2 Yao clan members, Gue Han was confident that he and Gue Dai could work together to take down Muyu. Ghost Chi came out of his body and covered the sky as he rushed towards Boss Lu again. Gue Dai was already rushing towards the dragon turtle, who had a soul weapon. Boss Lu held a soul weapon in his hand and looked at the people from the Gate of Hell with a heavy heart. Then he looked at Muyu with fear. His heart had already sunk to the bottom of the valley. In the battle just now, Boss Lu's old injuries had already flared up. This was one disaster after another. But Mu Yu's figure suddenly flashed. Mu Ling flew up into the sky and dispersed all the ghost chi. He stood in front of Boss Lu and looked at Gue Han mockingly. Where did you get the confidence to think that I would join hands with you if I interfered? Boss Lu's eyes widened and he looked up. Gue Han looked angrily at his ghost chi that had been defeated and said in a low voice, Mu Yu, we are all humans. When facing the demonic beasts, even if we have grievances, we should temporarily put aside our grievances and work together to deal with the demonic beasts. Do you want to betray the human race again? When Mu Yu killed Gue Xianyue in the second layer of heaven, he was labeled as a traitor. This was something that the people from the gate of hell knew very well. Betray? Oomph. Let me tell you, it's precisely because I'm a human that I want to interfere in this matter. I will absolutely not let you Hellgate people harm any demon king. Mu Yu's voice was not loud, but it contained billowing waves of anger, causing Gue Han to be stunned. Mu Yu's words were like thunder in Boss Lu's ears. He thought he had misheard. How could a human like Mu Yu say something like that? Mu Yu wanted to protect the Yao King? Was this really something Mu Yu would say? Young Mu Yu, you want to help us? Boss Lu looked at Mu Yu with uncertainty. Mu Yu was a human and had no relation to the Yao King. Why would he want to protect the Yao King? Boss Lu thought of a possibility. Was it because of Qiao Shui? Don't worry. With me here today, the people from the Gate of Hell will not be able to take away the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler. The Sea Calming Thousand Ruler should belong to the Sea Yao King, Yu Jiang, Mu Yu said calmly. He was not helping the Yao King because of Qiao Shui, but because Jianing Chun Feng, Huaning Qingyu, and Xianjizi had all said that the Yao King must be born. Mu Yu now vaguely understood what Xianjizi meant. The White Ape Demon King was fighting against the flesh-winged horn monsters, and Huaning Qingyu was protecting him from being killed by the powerful Moon Clan. That was why she chose to seal the White Ape Demon King. The Sand Eagle Demon King was sealed by Mu Yu's master, Jian Ingchun Feng, to protect the Yao King. How could Mu Yu hit the Yao King when he was down? Moreover, the White Ape Demon King that Mu Yu knew was not as ferocious as the legends of the cultivation world said. Although the White Ape Demon King had shamelessly threatened Mu Yu about becoming his son-in-law, he had never really done anything excessive to the human race. Moreover, in the illusion left by Xianjizi, the Sea Yao King was not an unreasonable person. It was just that their beliefs were different. The Yao King and the others were fighting against the oppression of the Moon Clan, which was why they were killed. Now that the Moon Clan was making a move, they would have to rely on the 10 Yao Kings to think of a way to resist the Moon Clan. Gue Han's killing intent soared to the sky. He looked at Mu Yu and said, "It seems that you are indeed a traitor of the human race. The traitors of the human race are the ones from the Gate of Hell. I haven't settled the matter of you colluding with the Moon Clan. I've always said that if there was one less person from the Gate of Hell in the cultivation world, the world would be a bit more peaceful. Today, I will deal with you first, so that you don't bring disaster to the human world." Mu Yu was still very angry about the people from the Gate of Hell helping Akatsuki in Mass Burial Valley. The people from the Gate of Hell had done all kinds of outrageous things, yet they still dared to splash dirty water here. The Shadow Clone sword in Mu Yu's hand responded. Green light burst out and merged into the void. The formation runes surged, and a powerful sword chi covered the sky and covered the earth as it enveloped Gue Han. Gue Daigo. Gue Han turned around and retreated without hesitation. He understood Mu Yu's strength and knew that he would not be able to gain any advantage in front of Mu Yu today. Even if he wanted to kill Mu Yu, he would not be rash. But Boss Lu blocked Gue Han with a soul weapon in his hand. "Little friend Mu Yu, although I don't know why you chose to help us, I still don't want to implicate you. As long as you kill the two of them, you will not be blamed by the human race for no reason in the future." Boss Lu did not hesitate at all. Everyone has the right to kill the people from the Gate of Hell. Xiao Shui, long tongue. Teach the people from the Gate of Hell a good lesson. Mu Yu said, "Okay." Xiao Shui threw the bone and jumped onto Mu Yu's shoulder. Long Tongue had rested for half a day. With Mu Yu's help, He had already recovered to 70 to 80%. He also landed on the other side of Muyu's shoulder. Boss Lu looked at Long Tongue in awe. Then he felt that something seemed to be wrong with Long Tongue, but he could not tell what was wrong. The wind heart linking array appeared beneath Muyu's feet. The green array pattern enveloped Little Commander and Long Tongue. Blue lightning suddenly lit up from Little Commander's body. A series of flashes of lightning flashed, and Long Tongue instantly grew larger. The aura on her body rose sharply. Every dragon scale on her body shone with a noble dragon pattern. These are dragon patterns? Lord True Dragon, you have broken through to the spirit-severing stage? Boss Lu shouted in surprise. That's right. You have a good eye. Long Tongue raised his head proudly. Then he turned around and swallowed Muyu's sword chi. His whole body was like a sharp sword that no one dared to touch. Yes, Lord True Dragon. Boss Lu replied in awe. He had already brought the dragon turtle to Gue Dai. Muyu and the others had already surrounded Gue Han. Their auras were like the sun in the sky, making Gue Han feel an immense pressure. Last time you schemed to trap me. Now we should settle the score. Muyu raised his shadow clone sword and pointed it at Gue Han. Now that he had He Liankong's soul tool, it was more than enough to deal with Gue Han, who was in the form synthesis stage. Gue Han's expression was cold, but he suddenly revealed a sinister smile. Muyu, do you really think you can defeat me with your strength? Whether I can or can't, we will know after I kill you. Muyu swung his shadow clone sword. Majestic sword chi slashed down. Every sword chi was awe-inspiring. It was as if they could slay all evil in the world. They all shattered the dense ghost chi that Gue Han gathered. Gue Han didn't dare to take this sword head-on. He knew how powerful Muyu's sword chi was, but he didn't dodge. His hand suddenly lit up with a rainbow light. This rainbow light came too suddenly. Even Muyu was stunned. He didn't understand when the people of the Gate of Hell changed their color. 7 colored rays of light intertwined in the air, forming a barrier that protected him. At this moment, Gue Han's fingers were glowing with a gray radiance. They intertwined rapidly in front of his chest, drawing a stripe. Then, he pointed his finger forward and a red ray of light shot out. The red light rapidly expanded in the air. Then, as if it had swelled up, it quickly turned into a human figure, a flesh-winged horn monster. Muyu looked at Gue Han in surprise and shouted, "You people of the Gate of Hell, where did this flesh-winged horn monster come from? Bastard, this is the great moon god. You dare disrespect the moon god? You are courting death." Gue Han laughed. The red flesh-winged horned monster looked like a phantom. It was more like a soul, but the aura on its body was real. It didn't seem fake at all. Muyu had fought the flesh-winged horned monster before, so he was very familiar with its aura. You are the bastard of that human and Yumon that came in just now. It seems like I have to teach you a lesson. The red flesh-winged horned monster opened its cracked mouth and laughed. Just now? Could it be that you are one of the ugly monsters in the 39th level of the prison? Muyu was shocked. He remembered that the flesh-winged horned monster was locked in the prison. As the leader of the Formation Glyph sect, he was very familiar with formations. The 39th level of the prison looked like an ordinary iron fence, but it was actually impenetrable. Even Muyu couldn't get close, so the flesh-winged horned monster couldn't escape. How did Gue Han release these disgusting fellows? Chapter 657. The flesh-winged horn monster had already pounced at Muyu. The 2 horns on its chest were incomparably sharp, drawing a red light in the air with incomparable power. Muyu did not underestimate this flesh-winged horn monster. This flesh-winged horn monster was much stronger than the Akatsuki he had seen before. Clearly, Gue Han had used some special secret technique to increase the strength of the flesh-winged horn monster. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to be so strong after being locked up for thousands of years. Muyu's shadow swords gathered powerful soul power and swung upwards to meet the flesh-winged horned monster's horns. But what Muyu did not expect was that when his shadow swords touched the long horns, they actually went straight through, and the sharp horns slammed heavily in his chest, sending him flying. He stabilized his body in the air. Then his figure flashed and pulled away from the flesh-winged horn monster. He lowered his head to look at his chest. His chest was intact, but he felt an indescribable pain all over his body. This is a soul? A soul attack? Muyu quickly dodged the horns of the flesh-winged horn monster, but his shadow swords couldn't hurt it in the slightest. Every time his shadow swords hit the air, it was as if they hit nothing, making him feel very uncomfortable. In the past, even if it was a soul, it was impossible for it to be intact under his shadow swords, because the shadow swords had the existence of Muling, which specialized in suppressing souls. But the flesh-winged horned monster's form had become very strange, and it did not fear Muling at all. This is not a soul, this is a shadow. The flesh-winged horned monster and the people from the Gate of Hell must have used some kind of evil and powerful spell together, Little Commander said in surprise. How do we break these spells? Muyu leaned to the side to dodge the sharp horns and kicked the monster's wings, but it still went straight through. He was almost injured by the monster's horns again. He was completely taking a beating passively. Only others could hit him. He could not hit anyone else. Just kill the guy who used the spell. The white fur on Little Commander's body flashed with blue sparks, and a blue greatsword slashed at Gue Han. The powerful lightning turned into a bolt of lightning and instantly landed on the seven-colored barrier around Gue Han's body. The lightning that filled the sky flickered and scattered, covering the entire barrier with thin lightning bolts that were violently pulsating. But the rainbow barrier shook slightly, and all the lightning was instantly shaken away. At the same time, Dragonvine's sword-shaped breath had already arrived, but did not have any effect on the rainbow barrier. What a hard turtle shell! Dragonvine shouted in the air. Even its dragon claws couldn't break through that defense. The seven-color barrier was very strange, but it was also very sturdy. It protected Gue Han, who was the caster of the spell, so there was no way to interrupt Gue Han's spell. Your attacks can't hurt Gue Han. Ghost Han laughed coldly. Muyu thought of something. Since Gue Han had the ability to summon flesh-winged horn monsters, he should have nothing to fear. But when he saw Muyu's attitude, he chose to retreat instead of killing him directly. Clearly, he had his own concerns. There was no way Gue Han would be able to use such a powerful technique as he wished. Gue Han's hand formed another seal, and an orange light appeared from the rainbow light. Then, the orange light quickly elongated and changed shape in the air, turning into an orange flesh-winged horn monster that directly pounced at Little Commander. The sharp orange horns did not show any mercy. The fleshy wings flapped, and the horns arrived in an instant. Even the lightning could not stop them, and the horns had already pierced Little Commander's body. "Aya!" Little Commander shouted. "Little Mouse, are you all right?" Dragonvine asked, but Gue Han's hand flashed with a yellow light again. A yellow flesh-winged horned monster flapped its wings and charged at Dragonvine. Although Dragonvine's body was huge, its speed was agile. It circled in a circle and dodged the yellow flesh-winged horn monster. "Of course I'm fine. My skin is so thick. Who can hurt me?" Little Commander replied proudly. "Then why are you shouting?" Dragonvine's body was like a sharp sword as it quickly circled around the monster. But the more it fought, the more sullen it felt. Because other than dodging, it could not retaliate. I just don't like ugly things touching my body. Even if it's a phantom, I don't like it. Watch how I break this turtle shell. Little Commander did not seem to be afraid of the flesh-winged, horned monster's phantom attack. Its small body flashed, and the blue great sword in its hand disappeared. Then, it turned into a white shadow and flashed in front of Gue Han's rainbow light barrier. Sharp blades as thin as cicada's wings popped out of its little claws. The sharp blades on Little Commander's claws were rarely used. Generally speaking, it would only use it to cut the corpses of demonic beasts or other hard food. But the sharp blades on its little claws were very sharp. In any case, Muyu had never seen anything that Little Commander could not cut. Sure enough, Little Commander's sharp blades pierced through the rainbow light barrier without any hindrance. Its claws only lightly scratched, and the rainbow light barrier was actually forcibly cut open by it. What? Guehan looked at Little Commander in shock and anger. The indestructible rainbow light barrier was actually broken by a little beast. This was something he did not expect. He raised a ghost banner in his hand. Countless resentful spirits flew towards Little Commander. Blue lightning immediately appeared on Little Commander's body and collided with the resentful spirits. All of the resentful spirits were electrocuted by Little Commander. However, Little Commander was also blown away by the tyrannical ghost chi. Guehan also retreated. He was quite afraid of Little Commander's brilliant heavenly thunder. Muyu was still dealing with the flesh-winged horn monsters. He still could not hit these phantoms. However, he discovered that after the flesh-winged horn monsters used their first tyrannical attack, their speed had already slowed down. They could not continue to pose a threat to him. This guy's Phantom's attack is a one-time use attack. No wonder Guehan did not have the intention to fight with us from the beginning. Muyu said. At the same time, green, cyan, blue, and purple flesh-winged horn monsters appeared once again. These four types of flesh-winged horn monsters were each more tyrannical than the other, especially the purple flesh-winged horn monster. Its aura had already reached the 9th layer of Combination Realm. Although these monsters' attacks were one-time use attacks, the monsters behind them were getting faster and faster. When the purple and blue flesh-winged horn monsters rushed towards Muyu, Muyu almost had no way to dodge. As soon as he teleported out, the purple flesh-winged horned monster's horns pierced towards his head. If he was stabbed, his head would probably be in splitting pain. He might even lose the ability to resist. Muyu directly disappeared into the Mu Ling, allowing the Mu Ling to meet the phantoms of the flesh-winged horn monsters. The powerful bombardment still sent Mu Ling flying. However, Muyu was able to protect himself. He flew out of the Mu Ling. The 7 flesh-winged horn monsters in the air no longer attacked. Instead, they arrogantly looked at Muyu. Guehan was protected in the middle by the 7 flesh-winged horn monsters. The 7-colored barrier around him had disappeared. Only then did Muyu see the thing in his hand. It was a transparent ball. The inside was like a lens. There were countless reflections of fences, and within the fences were the flesh-winged horn monsters. This was the reflection of the prison where the Yu clan was imprisoned on the 39th floor of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Using the reflections to summon the phantoms of the flesh-winged horn monsters from the prison, Muyu frowned. This was the first time he had seen the Gate of Hell do something like this. Not only that, after summoning the phantoms of the flesh-winged horn monsters, the enemy could still unleash such a powerful attack. It was truly extraordinary. Although the Mirage Formation could also project the shadows from afar without any damage, these projected shadows did not have any killing power. It was also impossible for them to have the ability to damage souls like the flesh-winged horn monsters. How did the people of the Gate of Hell do this strange ability? Hee, it wasn't easy to use the shadows to come out. It's a pity that I didn't kill this guy. The blue flesh-winged horned monster laughed sinisterly. This is still the Yao Ceiling Tower. Our goal is not to wander around the Yao Ceiling Tower. Hey, ghost servant, hurry up and think of a way to leave the Yao Ceiling Tower. The purple flesh-winged horn monster turned its head and shouted at Guehan. Guehan was not displeased at being shouted at. Instead, he said respectfully, Lord Moon God, this brat is blocking my way. He won't let me leave. It's just a human brat. If he wants to die, then let him. The green flesh-winged horn monster said. Muyu coldly looked at the disgusting thing in front of him. The shadow clone sword in his hand glowed green again. Then let's see if you have the ability to do so. Although he knew that Guehan could not release the flesh-winged horn monsters from the 39th floor of the Yao Ceiling Tower, Guehan could not have set up this spell for no reason. To project the phantoms of the flesh-winged horn monsters and let them see the outside world, Guehan must have some unspeakable secret. Do you really think there are only 7 of us? You are too naive. If our phantoms injure the vitals, they can also kill people. We can also borrow the bodies of dead people to live in another way. The purple flesh-winged horned monster stuck out its long purple tongue and licked its cracked lips. It sneered. This brat's body is not bad. He should be able to be controlled by us for a long time. His body is mine. The blue flesh-winged horned monster cackled. Guehan, lend me your body for a while. I will kill him first. The purple flesh-winged horned monster turned its head and said. Guehan's expression changed. He said with a trembling voice, But Lord Moon God, if you do that, I will, what? Isn't it your honor to be chosen by me? The purple flesh-winged horned monster cackled. Guehan was terrified. He quickly said, Lord Moon God, I'm the one in charge of bringing you out. We have already arranged everything for you. Once you leave, you can, but you can't beat this brat. I can't let things go wrong. As the purple flesh-winged horned monster spoke, its body flashed. Before Guehan could react, it had already entered Guehan's body. No, Guehan only had time to let out a cry of despair. Following that, his entire body shook violently. Rays of purple light surged out of his body and enveloped him. Then, the purple light flashed and formed a halo that enveloped Guehan. The ghost servant's body is not bad. Being chi is very heavy. Guehan turned his head and moved his muscles. He looked at his body with satisfaction. He then clenched his fist, making the sound of bones colliding. The aura on his body had undergone an earth-shattering change. It looked like there was a trace of holiness. As a ghost servant, I should be prepared to sacrifice myself for my master at any time. Guehan slowly raised his head. His eyes flickered with purple light as he stared at Muyu. His voice was sharp and unpleasant to the ears. It was like his nails scratching the wall. It made people's hair stand on end. At first, Muyu thought that Guehan did not want to use this technique because it was flawed. Now, Muyu understood what kind of risk Guehan had to bear when he used this technique. Chapter 658. The purple flesh-winged horned monster forcefully took Guehan's body away. This strange method of possession made Muyu's heart turn cold. He was not afraid that his body would be possessed, but he was worried that if the flesh-winged horned monster wanted to use this method to escape from the demon-suppressing pagoda, then once Guehan left here and released all the shadows in the prison, wouldn't the third heaven be in danger? The ball on Guehan's body must be destroyed. I haven't sucked a human soul for a long time. Kid, listen carefully. My name is Ziyuan, so that you won't die without knowing why. A long and thin purple blade appeared in Ziyuan's hand. It looked like a beam of purple light, but it was extremely sharp. With a gentle wave of his hand, a beam of purple light streaked across. A beam of cold purple gas appeared in the void. It was as if purple paint had fallen into water and dispersed bit by bit, sprinkling down in a voluminous manner. You'd better stay in the prison obediently. Don't come out and disgust people. Muyu's shadow-splitting sword swung open a formation pattern. His eyes were filled with endless killing intent. His body had already disappeared. Then he stepped out of the void behind Ziyuan, and the biting cold sword Qi slashed towards Ziyuan. Ding! The purple blade and the shadow-splitting sword collided with each other, creating powerful ripples. The shadow-splitting sword was very agile. It attacked Ziyuan's body from different directions. He knew where Ziyuan's weakness was. It had 2 horns on its chest. Breaking these 2 horns would weaken its strength. However, Ziyuan still maintained Guehan's appearance and did not reveal his true form. But his speed was also very fast. The purple blade in his hand was extremely sharp. It was like a purple, resentful snake, swallowing and spitting out purple light. It slashed towards Muyu. The purple light and the green light clashed violently in the air. Ziyuan's body was very fast, and the purple light flashed from time to time. The purple light floating in the air also turned into sharp blades and rushed towards Muyu. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged hundreds of blows. The more Muyu fought, the more shocked he became. He understood that this was not necessarily Ziyuan's true cultivation. Because he had been trapped in the demon-subduing pagoda all year round, Ziyuan, and all the other flesh-winged horn monsters had lost a large part of their cultivation. But even so, Ziyuan had become so strong after taking over Gui Han's body. If it weren't for He Liankong's soul armament, Muyu wouldn't have been able to last a single round against Ziyuan. Just Ziyuan was already so powerful. If the other flesh-winged horn monsters also obtained a body, wouldn't they make a comeback? Xiao Shuai's blue lightning also pounced. The powerful and domineering lightning was not Ziyuan's nemesis, but Ziyuan clearly did not like being electrocuted. The purple light in its hand always destroyed Little Marshall's lightning at just the right moment, and then swept back with even more power. Xiao Shuai's speed was already fast enough, but it was still slashed by countless purple blades. Fortunately, its skin was thick and invulnerable. The purple blades did not even cause any damage to its fur, but it still made Xiao Shuai very angry. The dragon vine sword Qi was very straightforward. After it advanced, its strength had increased greatly. It was no longer the same as before, and the power displayed was quite powerful. But the domineering dragon breath shot out in the air. Countless dragon-shaped sword shadows surrounded Ziyuan tightly, but they were unable to hit Ziyuan. Ziyuan actually resisted the joint attack of Muyu and the other two by itself, and it looked like it had the absolute upper hand. The remaining few shadows at the side did not make a move. They had already used their strongest attack, but their bodies were gradually fading. It was very obvious that the moon god shadow without a body could not fight for long. But Ziyuan, who had taken over Gui Han's body, was different. The few of you go back and rest first. It is very difficult for us to use our full strength in the demon subduing pagoda. Let me kill this brat first, said Ziyuan. You have to be careful. Taking over someone else's body like this is risky. We have to rely on the remaining ghost servant to get out. If we go back, there will be no one to help you. The red flesh-winged, horned monster glanced at the ghost butterfly that was fighting with the demons in the distance, and then gradually disappeared. Ziyuan sneered. I don't need your help. The purple light shone brightly again, and the long blade in Ziyuan's hand repelled Muyu and the other two. Xiao Shuai, 5 lightning strike. Muyu calmly waved the shadow sword, and a mysterious formation pattern spread out with him as the center. Xiao Shuai had already flown into the sky, and the blue giant sword soared into the sky again, shattering all the surrounding snowflakes. The dragon vine's body circled, and its breath turned into 4 flying swords that swept across Xiao Shuai's blue lightning sword. The runes wrapped around the restless thunder and lightning, suppressing all the thunder and lightning. The violent thunder and lightning were compressed to a terrifying degree by the runes, and a huge power was on the verge of erupting. At the same time, Muyu's shadow swords appeared and absorbed the entire thunder and lightning ball. The formation pattern whirlpool was formed. The shadow swords mixed with the violent thunder and lightning struck down. The thunder ball suddenly exploded. Countless thunder and lightning were like the eruption of a volcano. A terrifying wave spread out with the thunderball as the center. Ziyuan frowned slightly, and the long blade in his hand kept interweaving in front of him, forming a purple shield that wrapped himself in it. And all the violent lightning bolts hit the purple shield, but it was actually unable to break through this guy's protection. Is that all you've got? Ziyuan's expression was very arrogant. He completely looked down on Muyu, and even the people from the Gate of Hell were just tools to him. Ziyuan's body turned into a purple light and rushed forward. Muyu's shadow sword rippled in the void, and once again intertwined with Ziyuan. Xiao Shuai controlled the remaining 4 lightning balls, but he could not detonate them again, because he was worried that Muyu would be blasted into it too. The purple shadow and the sword light had already split the entire snowy mountain into thousands of ravines. The peak of the snowy mountain that was originally covered in white snow had been shaved off, and even a terrifying crack had been split open in the middle. On the other side, the battle between Boss Lu and the dragon turtle against Ghost Butterfly had also reached its climax. Although Ghost Butterfly was a woman, the powerful ghost Qi she emitted was not inferior to Gui Han's. This woman from the gate of hell was really powerful. The ghost chi that filled the sky turned into a huge butterfly in the snowy mountain. This butterfly's body was Ghost Butterfly herself, and the huge wings were formed by ghost chi, covering the sky and earth. Sometimes it turned into thousands of ghost chi ribbons trying to wrap around Boss Lu and the dragon turtle, and sometimes it turned into cold ghost daggers, flying in the air like willow leaf darts. At the same time, there was another twin beside her, who was also a masked and emotionless woman. Both of them were in the form synthesis stage, and were not at a disadvantage even when facing two demonic beasts. However, Boss Lu was indeed a demonic beast that had lived in the form of a spirit for thousands of years. Even though he had not recovered from his injuries, he was still very calm when facing Ghost Butterfly. His antlers had been broken by Gui Yeming last time, and he had not recovered yet, but he was not at a disadvantage when facing Ghost Butterfly. Boss Lu's demonic energy was overwhelming, and with the support of his soul weapon, he was always able to quickly break through Ghost Butterfly's ghost arts, and was evenly matched with her. It was certain that if Boss Lu was in his prime, Ghost Butterfly would not be a match for him. The fluctuations of spiritual energy had already caused wave after wave of avalanches, but now, no one cared about this matter. Everyone wanted to kill their opponents without any mercy. The battle between Mu Yu and Zi Yuan was getting more and more intense. Both sides were evenly matched, but the more it was like this, the more Mu Yu was worried. He was not worried about his lack of strength, but that if all the flesh-winged horned monsters escaped in this way, a catastrophe would befall the cultivation world. Zi Yuan could use Gui Han's body to be reborn. It was like attaching its own shadow and consciousness to Gui Han's body, which meant that the other flesh-winged horned monsters also had this ability. If the ball was taken away from the demon-suppressing pagoda and attached to other people in the cultivation world, then these monsters would have successfully escaped from the prison in another way. Originally, Muyu came to this level as a transit station. His ultimate goal was to go to the 81st level to find Gui Qingming, but he did not expect to run into something even more troublesome here. Now it seemed that he had to go back to the 39th level of the demon-suppressing pagoda and see what kind of ghost arts the people of the Gate of Hell had set up there. Kid, you're still distracted when fighting with me, then die. Zi Yuan took advantage of the moment when Mu Yu was distracted. The purple blade in his hand slashed, and, at the same time, his body began to change rapidly. The clothes in front of his chest were pierced, and sharp horns protruded from his chest, stabbing towards Mu Yu's chest. Mu Yu came back to his senses, and the shadow in his hand flew backwards to meet the purple blade. However, Zi Yuan had already revealed his original form. That ugly appearance appeared in front of Mu Yu, and the wings on his back were like a gust of wind, and the horns were about to reach him in an instant. The Big Dipper constellation formation enveloped Mu Yu's figure, and he disappeared on spot. However, the flesh-winged horn monster's speed exceeded Mu Yu's expectations and directly stabbed Mu Yu's shoulder, leaving a bloody hole in Mu Yu's shoulder. The purple Inchi instantly invaded Mu Yu's body and began to run wildly in Mu Yu's body, trying to destroy Mu Yu's body. Fortunately, the black and white spiritual energy in Mu Yu's body could always devour the external things, and at the same time, the bloody hole in Mu Yu's body began to heal. Mu Yu, don't be distracted. If you have anything to say, kill this ugly monster first. Little Shuai shouted. Brat, after being hit by my purple poison miasma, I see that you can still survive. Obediently become my sacrifice. Zi Yuan laughed loudly. Purple poison miasma? Mu Yu smiled contemptuously. I am immune to poison. The black and white spiritual energy in Mu Yu's body shook, and the bloody hole healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. How is this possible? Who are you? The lowly human race can't possibly resist the poison miasma of our great moon god clan. Zi Yuan asked in shock and anger. Great moon god clan? Flesh-winged horn monster, don't you blush when you say this? Oh, I forgot that your face is purple. Mu Yu sneered, and a rune appeared on his hand. I don't believe that you, brat, can defy the heavens. Zi Yuan had completely transformed into its ugly appearance. It screeched sharply and quickly rushed towards Muyu. The flesh-winged horn monster on its back also sprouted purple feathers and slashed towards Muyu. At the same time, the horn on its chest, which was nearly 1 meter long, rushed towards Muyu with unstoppable force. Muyu did not dodge this time. His right hand became incomparably dark and was filled with pure death chi. The rune wrapped around his right hand, and at the same time his left hand was suffused with white vitality. It was flamboyant and unrestrained, as if it could not wait to vent out its vitality. Wind Sun Array Technique. Muyu stretched out his hand towards the flesh-winged horn monster. He was prepared to fight it head-on. With his current strength, it was still possible for him to divert the attack of the flesh-winged horn monster. When Zi Yuan saw that Muyu actually wanted to fight with its horns with his bare hands, it suddenly laughed evilly. "Brat, you overestimate yourself and dare to take my god horn head-on. I will let you understand the wrath of the moon god." Moon god? God horn? It's fine if little handsome is narcissistic, but at least he looks cute. How dare you be narcissistic with your ugly appearance? Chapter 659. How dare you take my horn head-on? I'll devour you first. The strange power on Zi Yuan's horn began to reverse and forcibly absorbed Mu Yu's spiritual energy. Even the formation pattern that Mu Yu had set up was not spared. Damn it, disgusting vampire! Mu Yu felt that he was about to be unable to maintain the Wind Sun's shifting formation. The chaotic yin and yang in his body transformed, replenishing the lost spiritual energy and stabilizing the formation. However, a lot of the pure chi of death in his hand was still absorbed by Zi Yuan. The chi of death was wrapped up by the formation pattern. The black vortex became stronger again and sucked Zi Yuan's horn in. At the same time, a vortex gushed out of the white chi of life in his left hand. One of Zi Yuan's horns actually drilled out of the white vortex and went upside down. What? Zi Yuan looked at the horn that drilled out of the white vortex in shock. It did not expect that its horn would be transferred here by Mu Yu in this way, and it was even directed at itself. It exclaimed and suddenly retracted its horn to avoid being hit by itself. At this moment, Mu Yu also realized that the horn of the flesh-winged horn monster was not necessarily on its chest. When Zi Yuan retracted its horn, the horn actually protruded from its back and connected with its wings. Why does this ugly monster have so many tricks? Xiao Shuai's little figure held a huge thunder sword and slashed at Zi Yuan's fleshy wings. It hated wings very much now. Initially, Xiao Shuai had always wanted to roast this pair of fleshy wings. Later, after chopping them off and turning them into a pool of corpse water, Xiao Shuai no longer ate any wings. When Xiao Shuai's thunder sword came, the inverted scales on Zi Yuan's wings rose, and it retreated with Zi Yuan. In an instant, there was a distance between them, causing Xiao Shuai's thunder sword to hit nothing. This guy's horn can also devour spiritual energy. You guys be careful. When Mu Yu used the black vortex to absorb Zi Yuan's horn, the horn emitted a strong suction force and absorbed a lot of the black chi in his body. He almost could not maintain the formation pattern vortex. He quickly dispersed the chi of life and chi of death in his hand. It was too dangerous to use the Wind Sun's shifting formation in this way, because his hand would be injured to a certain extent. Furthermore, it was difficult for Mu Yu to transfer the attack of a combination stage cultivator. However, the black spiritual energy in his body was balanced again, and the injury on his hand quickly recovered. Shadow-splitting sword appeared again and slashed at Zi Yuan together with Xiao Shuai's dragon vine. But right at this moment, Zi Yuan suddenly roared with terror, and then its entire body shook violently. It turned around and looked at the horn on its back. The horn on its back actually carried traces of pure death energy. That was the black spiritual energy in Yu's body. What is this thing? Bastard! Zi Yuan was furious and wanted to dissolve Mu Yu's black spiritual energy but it found that it could not get rid of it at all. It began to devour Zi Yuan's invincible horn like a maggot attached to a bone. Purple Grudge's horns melted like snow, disappearing from the sharp tip, followed by the entire ugly horn, and finally moved to its wings. "Bastard! Lowly human, what did you do?" Zi Yuan roared angrily. He raised his saber and swung it down. A purple light flashed in the air, and it actually cut off all of its wings and horns. "You can even do this to yourself. So ruthless." Dragonvine swallowed and said. Wings and horns were their most powerful weapons. Once they were cut off, their strength would be greatly reduced. Back in the Moyen mountain range, Muyu had cut off Akatsuki's horn, so Akatsuki could not fully display her strength. Zi Yuan had to do this. The death chi it absorbed from Muyu's right hand was too overbearing. It was formed from the death chi of the netherworld grass and could devour everything in the world. It was not something Zi Yuan could easily resist. It knew that if it did not cut off its horns and wings, even its body would suffer. The cut-off horns and wings were gradually devoured in the air. Finally, only a cloud of black death chi was left, and it landed on the devastated snow mountain. However, what Muyu did not expect was that the black spiritual energy did not dissipate. Instead, it began to devour the snow mountain and gradually went deep into the snow mountain. Buzz! The snow mountain trembled, and white formation patterns flashed in the surroundings. The formation patterns could not escape the destruction of the Black Death Chi and vaguely showed signs of collapse. "Muyu, quick! That's the Death Chi of the netherworld grass. If we don't deal with it, it will erode everything." Little Shuai shouted. Muyu also came to a realization. He did not expect the Death Chi that flowed out of his body to be so terrifying. It could even devour everything around it to strengthen itself. He immediately rushed over. The white spiritual energy in his left hand surged again and grabbed the black death chi. The death chi began to entangle with the life chi. It did not want to be taken away by Muyu and kept struggling to escape from Muyu's hand. Muyu could only grit his teeth and help the life chi subdue the death chi. This process was very difficult because the death chi was too domineering. After devouring Purple Resentment's wings, it broke away from Muyu's control. It was too difficult for Muyu to take back the death chi. Mu Ling's sword rushed out at the critical moment and wrapped around Muyu's hands. The holes on its body emitted a strong suction force. This suction force contained a strange power. In the end, it finally controlled the struggling death chi. Muyu also completely took back the death chi. "What the hell? There's something buried in my body that can explode at any time," Muyu said with lingering fear. Last time, when he tried to take away the netherworld grass life chi and death chi, he could not withstand the huge fluctuations emitted by the life chi and death chi and almost died. It was Deadwood Daddy who used Blood Cover the Sky to save him. This time, if it was not for Mu Ling's help, he would not have been able to control the death chi. The life chi and death chi in Muyu's body maintained a balance. Usually, if he was injured, it could help him recover quickly. However, he now understood that this power could not be used casually. Although it was so strong that even the flesh-winged horn monster could not resist it, if he was not careful, it could lead to uncontrollable consequences. It was too scary. Purple Resentment's current appearance was very miserable. The wings and horns that it was so proud of were gone. The place where the horns used to be on its chest was now flat. It was very strange. It looked at Muyu angrily and shouted, "What are you hiding on your body?" "I'm hiding something that can kill you." Muyu tiptoed, and the shadow clone sword in his hand suddenly surged with a strong green light and slashed at Purple Resentment. Purple Resentment knew that it had lost its advantage. It immediately turned into a shadow and rushed out of Gui Han's body. It quickly fled in the air, still holding the transparent crystal ball in its hand. Gui Han was already dead. His chest was badly mutilated, and there was no breath left. "Want to escape?" "In your dreams." Muyu knew that the shadow could not be killed, so he took the risk again. The black chi in his hand grew stronger again. The Big Dipper constellation formation brought him behind Purple Resentment. The black chi had already imprinted on purple resentment's shadow. He made the right bet this time. The black spiritual power in his body was indeed the nemesis of this shadow. Purple resentment roared and struggled. It threw the crystal ball in its hand to Ghost Butterfly and shouted, "Ghost Servant, take this and leave the suppressing demon pagoda." Ghost Butterfly also realized that the situation was not right. Her ghost chi grew stronger, and she temporarily pushed Boss Lu away. She rushed to catch the crystal ball. At this time, Xiao Shuai's thunder sword had already slashed down. The sky full of thunder and lightning flew towards Ghost Butterfly. Crack! Ghost Butterfly could not dodge in time and was hit by the tyrannical thunder and lightning. She groaned but still turned into a cloud of ghost fog and fled. "Boss Lu, catch her. Don't let her escape," Muyu shouted. Since Purple Resentment was not completely killed, he could not leave directly. Otherwise, if the remaining death chi was not collected, it would cause irreversible effects. Boss Lu did not say a word and chased after Ghost Butterfly. Those who go against the Moon God clan will not have a good ending. Purple Resentment said viciously, "You can use this to threaten the King of Hell." The death chi in Mu Yu's hand gradually swallowed up Purple Resentment's shadow. Then the death chi tried to escape again. Mu Yu spent a lot of effort to collect it. He glanced around the battlefield. After making sure that there was no death chi left, he chased after Ghost Butterfly. That crystal ball must not be taken out of the suppressing demon pagoda by the people of the Gate of Hell. Otherwise, the flesh-winged horn monsters could use their shadows to attach themselves to human bodies. Then it would be very bad. On the 39th floor of the suppressing demon pagoda, countless flesh-winged horn monsters were imprisoned here. They were separated according to their color. The spiritual chi here was very thin, so they were severely restricted. At this time, there was a cage in which Purple Resentment and 9 other purple, flesh-winged horn monsters were locked together. "I envy Purple Resentment. He is the first one to leave here," a flesh-winged horn monster said. "Yes, it looks like he has successfully attached himself to a ghost servant. We can only wait for the next batch." The flesh-winged horn monsters looked at Purple Resentment, who was sitting in the corner with envy. Crack! However, at this time, a cracking sound came from Purple Resentment's body, attracting the attention of all the flesh-winged horn monsters. Then, more and more cracks appeared on Purple Resentment's body like porcelain. Finally, with a splash, Purple Resentment's body turned into a pool of purple water. "What's going on? Who killed Purple Resentment?" "Impossible. Humans can't kill us." "How did Purple Resentment die?" "Purple Resentment is really dead. Even his soul did not escape." The purple flesh-winged horn monsters immediately surrounded Purple Resentment in anger. They wanted to find out the cause of Purple Resentment's death. However, no one noticed that there was a sesame-sized black chi in Purple Resentment's corpse water. After Ghost Butterfly got the crystal ball, she quickly rushed to the foot of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, the small wooden hut that had been buried had been rebuilt at some point. Bang! Ghost Butterfly opened the door of the small wooden hut and slammed it shut. At this time, Boss Lu rushed in, followed by Muyu. But when Muyu rushed into a dark room, he found that Boss Lu was the only one left in the room. "Boss Lu, where is Ghost Butterfly?" Muyu looked around. It was dark all around, but there was nothing. Boss Lu's hand glowed with the light of a soul item, illuminating the surroundings. But there was nothing around, only hard walls. "I don't know. Ghost Butterfly is not here. Her aura is not here." Boss Lu was also puzzled. Muyu was startled. He quickly deduced the changes in the passage in his mind. Vexed, he said, "It's over. The exit must have changed just now." Ghost Butterfly entered the 4th floor before the change, and we entered the 63rd floor. "Muyu, my friend, what do you mean?" Boss Lu asked, puzzled. Muyu sighed. He didn't explain right away. He had forgotten something important. The Yao Ceiling Pagoda was within the domain of enlightened Master Xianjizi's return to origin. Everything that was damaged could be repaired, including the exit that had been crushed by the avalanche. But that was not the main point. The main point was that after Ghost Butterfly escaped, the exit of the tunnel happened to change and brought Mu Yu and the others to another level. Chapter 660. According to the pattern of the exit, Ghost Butterfly had already escaped to the 4th floor. Mu Yu carefully calculated, if he wanted to go to the 4th floor, then he would have to wait for at least 2 hours to reach the 71st floor, and then wait for another 6 hours to reach the 4th floor. Ghost Butterfly couldn't stay on the 4th floor forever. In the next 10 hours, the 4th floor would be connected to 3 places. Mu Yu was sure that Ghost Butterfly would leave from another exit after entering the 4th floor, but it was hard to say where she would appear in the next 10 hours, because Mu Yu didn't know exactly how long Ghost Butterfly would stay on a particular floor. If he wasn't sure how long she stayed, he wouldn't be able to deduce which floor she went to. He couldn't chase after Ghost Butterfly anymore. Little friend Mu Yu, thank you for saving us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been a match for the people from the Gate of Hell. Boss Lu was very grateful. Although he didn't know what Mu Yu was worried about, he saw Zi Yuan's wings and horns just now and understood that this kind of creature couldn't be touched. If it wasn't for Mu Yu's intervention, they wouldn't have been able to survive today. Yeah, I thought you would also covet the Sea Demon King's 1,000 Rulers Sea Calming. The Dragon Turtle interrupted. Boss Lu immediately glared at the Dragon Turtle. Don't talk nonsense. How could little friend Mu Yu be that kind of person? He's a good friend of Lord True Dragon, a friend of the Yao clan. Mu Yu shrugged indifferently. To be honest, he was just amazed by the 1,000 Rulers Sea Calming, but didn't covet it. After all, this thing belonged to the Sea Demon King. Since the Sea Demon King was about to come out, Mu Yu didn't have to fight for it. Where did you get the 1,000 Rulers Sea Calming? Mu Yu asked. After entering the Yao-suppressing pagoda, everyone was randomly teleported to any floor. Mu Yu didn't know how Boss Lu was targeted by the people from the Gate of Hell. I found it on the 8th level, and was then discovered by 2 people from the Gate of Hell. They wanted to take it away. The people from the Gate of Hell have twins, and they are very difficult to deal with, so I could only escape. It took me a lot of effort to shake them off, and I came to the level of the Snow Mountain just now, where I met Little Dragon Turtle. Then, the people from the Gate of Hell caught up with me. Boss Lu explained briefly. As for how they found the sea-steadying 1,000 ruler, Boss Lu did not explain, so Mu Yu did not ask. He was sure that Boss Lu had used some kind of secret demonic art to break the seal. After all, Immortal Xianjizi would not simply throw away something like the sea calming 1,000 ruler. What do you plan to do next? Mu Yu continued to ask. Big Brother Lu hesitated for a moment before he said firmly, let's find the Sea Demon King sealed lair and undo the Sea Demon King seal. Mu Yu knew that the Yao came in to save the Sea Demon King. To be honest, if he didn't know that the Sea Demon King must be born, Mu Yu would definitely not approve of the Yao rescuing the Sea Demon King Yujiang. According to the legends of the cultivation world, the reason why the Demon Clan was suppressed by the Human Clan was because the Demon Clan had helped the Human Clan deal with the Yumming Devil Clan during the battle with the Yumming Devil Clan. However, the Demon Clan had put forward very harsh conditions, so the Human Clan finally exterminated the Demon Clan. However, now that Mu Yu understood some of the truth, he realized that things were not as simple as he thought. Do you know which layer the Sea Demon King Yujiang is sealed in? Mu Yu asked. Since the Sea Demon King Yujiang had to be rescued, then Mu Yu would help if he could. The place where the Sea Demon King was sealed definitely had the strictest protective formation. Rescuing the Sea Demon King would not be an easy task. Big Brother Lu and the Dragon Turtle glanced at each other. Big Brother Lu replied, according to the speculations of the Yao souls that have been sealed for 5,000 years, the Sea Demon King is sealed in the top layer. However, we don't know how to get to the 99th layer. The exits here are all random. We can only try our luck. There's no need to try our luck. I know how to get to the 99th layer, Mu Yu said. Really? Mu Yu, are you joking? Big Brother Lu was a bit suspicious. He didn't have Mu Yu's divination abilities. He had no idea which layer these passageways led to. He could only wander around blindly. To be honest, it wasn't just him. Probably no one who came and knew the secret of the Yao Sealing Pagoda. Master Xian Jizi's magic treasure was not that easy to find out. Why would I lie to you? It's up to you to believe it or not. We're not interested in finding the Sea Demon King. Dragon Tongue snorted at the side. He was very dissatisfied with Big Brother Lu's doubts. Big Brother Lu hurriedly lowered his head respectfully. He said seriously, Lord True Dragon, please forgive me. I'm not doubting Muyu. If Muyu can help us find the Sea Demon King, we will definitely be very grateful to Muyu. All right, now, go back to the previous layer, which is the layer of the snow mountain. Wait for 7 minutes. After that, the entrance will lead to the 26th layer. Wait for 4 hours on the 26th layer. Then, come out from the entrance and enter the 31st layer. Wait for an hour on the 31st layer. Then, walk through the exit and enter. Muyu pointed out the simplest path for him. There were a total of 12 transits, which would take at least 32 hours. Big Brother Lu was confused for the first time. He hurriedly used his demonic power to engrave Muyu's words into a piece of animal skin. Otherwise, he would not have been able to remember them. Big Brother Lu looked at the demonic words on the animal skin. He was still skeptical. However, he was afraid of angering Dragon Tongue again, so he did not show it. Besides, they were like headless flies in the demon's ceiling tower. They might as well give a try. Then, Muyu and Lord True Dragon, where are you going? Big Brother Lu asked hesitantly. We're going to find the people from the Gate of Hell to settle accounts. Hurry up. In another 7 minutes, the exit will change. By then, all the routes I gave will be useless. Remember, you must act according to my instructions. Not too early or too late. Otherwise, it will be like chasing the ghost butterfly. We will miss the time and be diverted to another place, Muyu said. Big Brother Lu nodded solemnly. Then, he led the dragon turtle back the way they came. Muyu, on the other hand, once again planned a route to the 81st floor. He had to wait here for an hour before he could make his move. Muyu then kept thinking about the black and white spiritual energy in his body. It could be said that he was able to kill Zi Yuan purely by luck. If he had not discovered that he could gradually control and separate the black and white spiritual energy, he would not have been able to kill Zi Yuan with the death aura. Muyu, I still don't understand. When we met Akatsuki, your spiritual energy was also sucked away by its corpse water. Why were you fine then? Dragon Tongue asked. Because of a balance problem, Muyu said. When his spiritual energy was sucked away, the black and white spiritual energy were mixed together. One black and one white maintained a miraculous balance. Therefore, when his spiritual energy was sucked away, it was the same as normal spiritual energy. Nothing would happen. Muyu was now more and more familiar with the black and white spiritual energy. He already knew how to separate the black and white spiritual energy. When Zi Yuan sucked away the death aura, it separated the death aura from Muyu's body. The death aura was too scary. It could devour everything, including Zi Yuan. The most serious thing was that a small trace of death aura would constantly increase and devour. If it was not dealt with in time, it would cause unimaginable consequences. In the end, it could even destroy the entire third heaven. At that time, Muyu was not sure if he could still control the increasing death aura. Then why was Mu Ling useless against the flesh-winged horn monster? It's also a death aura. Dragon Tongue asked again. Aya, big earthworm, do you have 100,000 lives? Why are you so stupid? Mu Ling is originally something full of life. Even if it was infected by the death aura, its death aura is still not pure enough compared to the death aura in Muyu's body. Little Shuai answered for Muyu. That's right. In short, other than dealing with the flesh-winged horn monster, I really can't separate the life aura and death aura at other times, Muyu said, shaking his head. Muyu sat cross-legged and adjusted his breath for 2 hours. During this time, no one came to this level. This also saved Muyu from unnecessary trouble. After 2 hours, he finally started to move. He entered the next level according to the route he had just deduced. Outside the demon subduing tower, the souls of the human race and the demon race were waiting anxiously near the demon subduing tower. Now, both sides temporarily put aside their prejudices and entered the demon-subduing tower for their own purposes. However, putting aside their prejudices did not mean that they could get along well. The souls of both sides were still on guard against each other to prevent either side from doing something out of line. Hellion Kong looked at the demon-subduing tower and sighed in his heart. He had been trapped on this demon island for 5,000 years and could not leave. He did not know what had happened outside. Every day, he only faced the endless battle of bone warriors for the so-called dignity of the human race. He was really tired. Sometimes, it was better to die happily than to live monotonously. He wanted to leave this island, even if he had to die. I hope Muyu can help me realize this wish. Hellion Kong sighed. He had placed all his hopes on Muyu. As long as Muyu could control the demon-subduing tower to release the seal on the entire island, he would be free and become a free soul. He would enter the cycle of reincarnation. Gue Yezi and Gue Yeming were furtively discussing something far away from the crowd. Their expressions were unfathomable. I don't know if Gue Cherishing Life has reached the 81st level or not. The Sky-Pierce reincarnation seal is our only hope of finding soul transference. If we can't find it, Gue Yeming frowned and did not continue. Gue Yezi pondered for a moment and said, "We have to take care of soul transference and the people of the Divine Moon Clan. When Taoist Master Xianjizi was still alive, I inadvertently heard some secrets about the demon-subduing tower. Gue Cherishing Life is a good seedling. He won't let us down. Then when are we going to make our move on the souls on the island?" Gue Yeming glanced at the souls of the demon clansmen who had been on guard not far away. There's no need to rush. The souls on this island are all quite strong, much stronger than the souls outside. If we can refine them into our magic treasures, it'll be a huge fortune. However, we'll have to wait until that brat that Hellion Kong instructed breaks Taoist Master Xianjizi's return to Origin Domain. Otherwise, we won't be able to control the souls here, Gue Yezi said calmly. The people of the Gate of Hell came to the island for many reasons, and one of them was to collect the thousands of souls on the island. Gue Yeming glared at Hellion Kong in the distance and said fiercely, "That Hellion Kong who protected Muyu, I must control him. He wants to be free? Humph, not so easy. I want to keep his consciousness and make him kneel before me. I want him to live in humiliation forever." Gue Yeming was a vengeful person. He was still brooding over the fact that Hellion Kong had protected Muyu and attacked him. Gue Yezi said indifferently, "Don't worry, he can't be free. None of the souls here can escape. Once the demon-subduing tower removes the formation domain, all the souls, including the demon clansmen, will become our ghostly servants. Hellion Kong is no exception." The people of the Gate of Hell were vicious and merciless. There were so many souls on the island. It was simply inexcusable to let them free. Hellion Kong didn't know that he just wanted to free himself from the island and let Muyu come into contact with the formation domain of the demon-subduing tower. He didn't expect Gue Yezi to secretly obey and set his sights on him. Gue Yeming and Gue Yezi's hand were suffused with dense, ghostly energy. It silently spread out and disappeared into the void. Chapter 661. Because of what happened just now, Muyu had missed the most convenient way to the 81st floor. He was currently on the 67th floor. This was a vast and boundless sea, with only a lone island. He still had to wait for another 3 hours before he could leave this floor. This island was less than 20 square meters. There was a hole in the ground, which was the exit of this floor. The blue ocean rippled all around, and the white clouds in the sky drifted in all directions. Other than that, there was nothing else, not even a seabird. Speaking of which, why did Taoist Master Xianjizi set up such a strange illusion formation in the demon-subduing pagoda? This floor is just an endless ocean. What's the point? Little Handsome said in boredom. Who knows? Do you think a little mouse will appear in the ocean here? Your big lover? That shy little Mo Dragonvine said with a mischievous smile. Boss Graham, what big lover? If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten what it looked like. Little Handsome angrily scolded. Dragon Vine laughed loudly. It's fine if you forgot. I know what Little Mo looks like. I'll help you remember. Its upper body is a gorilla, and its lower body is a giant octopus. Its body is muscular, and its skin is dark. When it looks at you, it's a little shy. I feel like it might jump out of the ocean to find you, huh? Splash. There's a violent sound of water splashing, and then a huge monster suddenly drilled out of the water. It seemed to cover the sky and the sun, and its shadow really shrouded the whole small island. The upper body of a gorilla and the lower body of an octopus. It was a 7th rank ink demon gorilla. Little Handsome staggered and sat on the ground. He opened his mouth wide. No, it can't be, right? It really is Little Mo. Muyu was also surprised. The aura of the ink demon gorilla in front of her was the same as the little ink demon gorilla that Little Handsome had mentioned. Especially this ink demon gorilla. It was looking at Little Handsome with its shy eyes full of affection. In the end, it even reached out a tentacle and gently touched Little Handsome. Then it began to make hissing noises. Heavens! How did Little Mo appear here? Dragon Vine was also shocked. It had only said it casually. How could it have known that Little Mo would really appear? No, this isn't real. It's an illusion. I understand now. This array formation is called primordial chaos. There are no living creatures, but whatever you deliberately think of in your mind, it will appear. Muyu's eyes flashed with array runes as he saw the essence of the ink demon gorilla before him. The beginning of chaos was a very mysterious formation because it completely relied on the spiritual energy of the cultivator to construct a world. Whatever the cultivator wanted to create, it would appear in this world. This array formation was very profound. At the very least, Muyu is unable to arrange such a powerful array formation with his current cultivation level. Doesn't that mean that if I think about the appearance of a big earthworm will appear? Little Shuai rolled its eyes and quickly simulated Dragon Vine's appearance in its mind. However, when it was imagining it, one of Dragon Vine's dragon horns was missing. Roar! As expected, the Dragon Vine, which was missing a horn, emerged from the sea with a roar and flew freely in the air. Little mouse, do you want to die? Dragon Vine was flustered and exasperated. It then shouted, Then I also want to see you without a mouth. Let's see how you're going to eat. Sure enough, another little Shuai flew out from the sea. This little Shuai was dancing with joy, but it didn't have a mouth. Then, the two guys who were bored to death began to compete with their imaginations. Little Shuai and Dragon Vine began to imagine each other's comical appearances happily. Soon a bunch of strange-looking Dragon Vine and Little Shuai appeared in the air above the sea, including a little Shuai with missing arms, a little Shuai with a pig's nose, a little Shuai with cross eyes, a little Shuai with a watermelon hat, Dragon Vine whose beard had turned into 2 hemp ropes, Dragon Vine whose body was tied into a dead knot, Dragon Vine which was pink and cute, Dragon Vine with 2 big waves on its chest. Muyu carefully looked at the comical versions of Little Shuai and Dragon Vine flying around in the air. He wasn't as bored as these two. Instead, he was thinking about the purpose of the primordial chaos formation. This formation was quite profound. Muyu had once read about it in Deadwood Daddy's Xian formation. The things that appeared in this formation were related to a person's mental strength. The more complex something was, the more mental strength it required. If too much mental strength was used, one would feel tired. Don't think too much. If you think too much, you won't have the energy to do it later, Muyu warned. Sure enough, not long after, Little Shuai and Long Tongue's quarrel ended, and they stopped listlessly. Now, the sky was filled with Little Shuai and Long Tongue flying around. There were also some chicken drumsticks with wings, roasted suckling pigs on fire, roasted ducks with attractive colors. Although the things they imagined weren't real, the aura couldn't be faked. For example, if Muyu wasn't familiar with formations, he wouldn't have been able to tell that it was the ink demon gorilla. When Little Shuai and Dragon Vine were tired and began to lie down to sleep, The things they imagined gradually disappeared. However, Muyu thought of something. Relying on the primordial chaos formation, as long as it was properly mastered, it could be used to do many things. On the Demon Island, Muyu could only rely on Hellion Kong's help to compete with the people of the Gate of Hell. If the formation domain of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda was broken, Hellion Kong would be freed. At that time, Muyu would have to face the pursuit of all the people of the Gate of Hell. As for the Ghost Realm Child, Muyu didn't believe that this guy also wanted to be freed. He would definitely use the ghost arts of the Gate of Hell to survive. The people of the Gate of Hell cultivated the soul, so it was possible for them to reach this stage. As for the primordial chaos formation, Muyu was thinking about how to use it reasonably, so that when the time came, he would have a way out. Muyu rested for a long time. He didn't meet anyone else on the rest of the journey. He took Little Shuai and Dragon Vine, who were too tired to play, and fell asleep, and spent 14 hours. During this time, he made 4 turns and finally arrived at the 81st floor. He turned around and glanced at the passage. This passage was a whirlpool in the air. He had just walked through the whirlpool, surrounded by a vast expanse of white clouds. What was reflected in front of him was a towering mountain. Green mountains and clear waters. Waterfalls flowed, and pine and cypress tenaciously took root and grew in the crevices of the mountain. The top of the mountain was covered in white clouds, quiet and leisurely. Apart from this mountain, there was nothing else. At a glance, this mountain looked a little familiar. However, Muyu had been wandering around the cultivation world. He had even been to the second heaven many times and had seen countless mountains. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he had seen this mountain. Muyu flew towards this mountain in midair, but as he flew, he found that something was wrong. His cultivation was now at the spirit-severing stage, so his flying speed was extremely fast. From the whirlpool to the mountain in the distance, he could reach it in the blink of an eye. However, in this blink of an eye, he flew for a long time but still couldn't fly over. Muyu turned his head and glanced behind him. He was surprised to find that, after flying for so long, the whirlpool passage was still behind him. He couldn't fly over at all. This is so close, yet poles apart. Muyu nodded thoughtfully. So close, yet poles apart, was an array technique that Muyu had been imparted to him by the Array Heavenly Tao back when he was in the Array sect. It could shrink the ground into an inch and expand it to infinity. It could truly make a distance close in front of you, yet far in the horizon. It was impossible to get close. Muyu rarely used this array technique. This array technique was somewhat useful against people of the same cultivation level, but against people of a much higher cultivation level, it was very strenuous and unrewarding. The array technique here was set up by Taoist Master Xianjizi. With Muyu's cultivation level, he couldn't break it. He had to follow Taoist Master Xianjizi's laws to get close to the mountain. But where exactly was the reincarnation seal on this mountain? No, this isn't a mountain. This is the reincarnation seal on this mountain. Muyu was a little shocked. No wonder he found this mountain a little familiar. So it was because of this reason. Originally, the 81st floor of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda was formed by the reincarnation seal. Here, the reincarnation seal seemed to have been enlarged. It was no longer a small thing. This kind of uncanny craftsmanship was an eye-opener even for Muyu, the sect master of the Array Talisman sect. Although Muyu knew many array techniques, Taoist Master Xianjizi's array techniques were still far above Muyu's. This was something that Muyu had to admit. The reincarnation seal had a so close, yet poles apart array technique set up near it, preventing people from flying over directly. He simply descended the mountain. Passing through the clouds, he saw the 8 trigrams array at the foot of the mountain. As expected, it was the base of the reincarnation seal. Muyu stood firmly at the foot of the mountain where the reincarnation seal was located. Looking at the mountain peak that reached the clouds, he couldn't see the bottom. However, he was still in a dilemma. He didn't know if Gue Piming had already arrived here in advance. He also didn't know if Gue Piming knew how to activate the reincarnation seal to return to the past. At the very least, he didn't know how to control this reincarnation seal. I remember that there's a cave halfway up the mountain. There's also a platform. Could that cave be the passageway to return to the past? Muyu pondered for a moment. He glanced at little Shuai and Long Tongue, who were sleeping soundly after exhausting their mental energy for playing. He didn't wake them up and walked towards a mountain peak. If he walked from the foot of the mountain this so close, yet pulls apart array technique actually didn't work on him. He quickly arrived at the foot of the mountain. He knew that if he flew up, he would probably be stopped by the so close, yet pulls apart array again. Thus, he circled around the foot of the mountain and finally found a path up the mountain. This mountain path was carved out by winding stones. The roadside was filled with small flowers and grass. What surprised Muyu was that the small flowers and grass here were all real plants. There were crickets chirping in the surroundings. The shadows of frogs flashed past. There were small squirrels running around the pine trees by the side of the stone path. There were also small birds jumping and flying between the branches. Nothing on this mountain was formed by array patterns. It was like a small world. Everything really existed. There was a small stone tablet by the side of the mountain. There was a line of poetry written on it. Mountain walkers on the commandment, heaven's birth samsara steals forever. Follow your heart for eternity. Don't force it. The past turns to ashes and reappears. The future is changeable. Treat the present day well. Don't let the golden goblet face the moon. Muyu carefully read this poem. The general meaning of this poem was very clear. It seemed to be explaining that the heaven's birth samsara seal had some relationship with eternal life. However, it also advised people who went up the mountain not to be nostalgic about the past. It was better to focus on the present than anything else. However, this poem also proved that it was indeed possible to use the heaven's birth samsara seal to return to the past. To Muyu, there was nothing to force. He came here to stop the ghosts from cherishing their lives. Of course, if he could return to the past and find out where the treasure of the gate of hell, soul returning to the heart, was, then it would be best to find it. Unfortunately, Muyu still didn't know what soul returning to the heart looked like. If he wanted to find it, he would need the help of the ghosts who cherish their lives. Chapter 662. Walking up the stone steps, he was surrounded by red flowers, green forests, and dancing butterflies. It was a peaceful scene that made one feel relaxed and happy, as if they had walked into a paradise. The path up the mountain wasn't steep, but it was a bit winding. He meandered along the mountain path, and from time to time, he could hear the sounds of the clear spring in the mountain stream and the chirping of birds in the forest. The sounds of nature reverberated in his ears. It was a peaceful place, but Muyu didn't let down his guard because he was worried that Gue Pei Ming might be nearby. If they met, there would be an intense battle. After walking up the mountain for about an hour, he passed by a peach forest full of peaches. The fragrance of the peaches woke up the sleeping Xiao Shuai. But the things here were too strange, so Muyu didn't let Xiao Shuai pick the peaches to eat. Soon, Muyu arrived at a stone platform on the cliff. There was an old banyan tree here that covered the sky. There was a stone table under the banyan tree with a purple teapot and teacups on it. There was a waterfall flowing down from the side, and below the waterfall was a path blocked by a curtain of water. Next to the banyan tree was a cave, and the cave entrance was covered by a nebula that covered the scene inside. Muyu recognized this nebula. It was the Sky Spill Nebula that Gue Pei Ming had obtained. After the Sky Spill Nebula and the Sky Spill Reincarnation Seal fused together, the Sky Spill Nebula spiraled into the cave on this mountain. At this moment, Muyu was looking at the Sky Spill Nebula from a close distance, and he was extremely shocked. The Sky Spill Nebula slowly rotated, and thousands of stars twinkled in the nebula, as if it contained the entire galaxy. Various colors of starlight were faintly discernible, and there was also a blurry fog, revealing an indescribable hazy beauty. Could this cave be the path to the past? Muyu pondered. He didn't know if Gue Pei Ming had already come to this place, or if he had returned to the past to see where the soul returning to the heart was. He also wanted to know the whereabouts of the soul returning to the heart and find it to save Deadwood Daddy. Even though he didn't even know what soul transference looked like, Muyu approached the sky spill nebula and stretched out his hand to touch the hazy starlight. His hand didn't encounter any obstruction, but the sky spill nebula seemed to be very far away from him, as if he couldn't reach it. He tried to take a step inside, but there was still no obstruction. However, no matter how he walked, he was still at the entrance of the cave. He clearly felt that he was walking, but he was still walking in the same place. So near, yet worlds apart's formation is too profound. How do we get in? Muyu thought for a moment and shook the snoring Xiao Shuai in his arms. Xiao Shuai half opened his eyes and asked in a daze, "What?" "I'm eating peaches." As he spoke, little Handsome swallowed his saliva again. Muyu said helplessly, "I told you not to cause trouble in the array where chaos was first born. You won't be happy until you exhaust your energy. Do you know how to enter the cave with the reincarnation seal?" Xiao Shuai casually glanced at the sky spill nebula and turned around to sleep again. "There's roast duck in this cave." Muyu shouted, "Roast duck! Roast duck! Where's my roast duck?" Xiao Shuai suddenly opened his eyes and jumped up. He sniffed twice and realized that he couldn't smell anything. Then, he fell back down with a plop. Muyu wanted to beat Xiao Shuai up. When it came to food, he jumped higher than anyone else. When he couldn't smell anything, he fell asleep again. At the crucial moment, he really deserved a beating. He could only stuff Xiao Shuai back into his pocket and think of a solution himself. Muyu couldn't decipher the so near, yet worlds apart spell in this cave. He could guess that he had to pass through this cave to return to the past, but he couldn't cross that natural chasm. On the other side of the old banyan tree was the path up the mountain that was blocked by a water curtain. Muyu wondered if he should continue walking to the top of the mountain to see the scenery. But he thought that if he went up the mountain and that Gue Peiming came here and thought of a way to enter the cave, then he would miss it. He walked to the edge of the cliff and looked into the distance. Clouds and mist lingered around, as if he was in a fairyland, but he couldn't see anything. "I really didn't expect you to be able to find this place." A discordant voice suddenly sounded out. Then, Gue Peiming slowly walked down the mountain path under the water curtain. Muyu turned around vigilantly and stared at Gue Peiming. This guy had indeed arrived earlier than him, and from his appearance, he seemed to have just come down from the mountain. Obviously, he couldn't enter the cave, so he went to the top of the mountain. "What? I thought you had already returned to the past." Muyu replied indifferently. He actually wasn't sure if Gue Peiming had seen the past and returned. He only asked this to test Gue Peiming's attitude. Gue Peiming laughed coldly. "Before I return to the past, the first thing I have to do is to kill you." While speaking, Gue Peiming's body lit up with soul power. The five twins fiercely rushed towards Muyu. Since they didn't get along, they greeted each other with fists and legs. Muyu had long been on guard against Gue Peiming. This guy suddenly attacked him. Muyu wasn't surprised. When he wanted to fly up, he found that he couldn't leave the ground. This place obviously didn't allow him to fly. "Really troublesome," Muyu muttered. The array pattern flashed and covered his body. The shadow sword pierced out from the void towards Gue Peiming. A blood-red long axe appeared in Gue Peiming's hand. The long axe carried a dense ghost chi and chopped towards Muyu. Sword light shot out in all directions. Ghost chi overflowed. The two people's movements in the air were incomparably swift and fierce. Both of them didn't show any mercy as they launched their strongest attack. They both wanted to kill each other, but time seemed to have stopped at that moment. Whether it was Muyu's shadow sword or Gue Peiming's blood-red long axe, the tyrannical spirit power violently surged. The killing intent was awe-inspiring as they rushed towards each other. But their distance was always a little short. That small distance was clearly about to be chopped, but they still couldn't get close. Muyu's gaze congealed. With a solemn expression, he withdrew his shadow sword and walked a few steps to the side. Looking at Gue Peiming, who was still full of killing intent, he suddenly smiled. So close yet so far, no one could touch each other. Gue Peiming kept rushing forward in the air. After he rushed for a long time, he found that Muyu had already withdrawn his sword and stood in the same place. Only then did he understand. Gui Pei Ming also landed. He walked to Mu Yu's side and chopped towards Mu Yu with his axe. Mu Yu didn't move because he didn't need to dodge. That blood-red long axe had clearly chopped towards Mu Yu's head, but it couldn't fall. You still don't want to give up? Mu Yu stretched out his hand to push Gui Pei Ming away, but his hand couldn't touch Gui Pei Ming. This was a very strange feeling. The two people were clearly only an inch apart, but no one could touch each other. It was as if they were in two parallel worlds. The parallel lines didn't intersect, and they couldn't touch each other. Consider yourself lucky. This strange place saved you. Gui Pei Ming coldly snorted and withdrew his ghost chi. Even the twin souls couldn't get close to Mu Yu. No one could hurt each other. Lucky? That's not necessarily true. Mu Yu walked to the banyan tree and touched it. The banyan tree was real, and he could touch it. He could even take back his shadow swords. But why couldn't he touch Gui, cherishing life? Gui Pei Ming once again walked to the entrance of the cave. He no longer paid attention to Mu Yu and continued to ponder the mystery of this place. They racked their brains to come to this place, but they didn't know how to open the Sky Spill reincarnation seal to return to the past. Mu Yu initially thought that Gui Pei Ming had obtained the Sky Spill Nebula and knew how to use the Sky Spill reincarnation seal. Now it seemed that Gui Pei Ming was just bluffing. The Sky Spill Nebula wasn't the instruction manual for the Sky Spill reincarnation seal. Gui Pei Ming wanted to go back to the past to see who stole the soul returning to the heart. From a certain point of view, Mu Yu also wanted to know. Since the soul returning to the heart could save Deadwood Daddy, he didn't mind going back to the past. It was just that he couldn't go back to the past alone. Mu Yu didn't know when the gate of hell's treasure, soul returning to the heart, was stolen or what it looked like. Only Gui Pei Ming, who was from the gate of hell, knew these things. Mu Yu didn't know these things. He didn't know when and where he should go to find the person who stole the soul returning to the heart. Hey, little devil, I say, when was your soul returning to the heart stolen? How could you lose such a precious treasure so easily? Why didn't you put it in a safe and lock it with a steel chain or something? Why didn't you send a few hundred little devils to guard it? Mu Yu asked. Gui Pei Ming was still thinking around the Sky Spill Nebula and didn't pay attention to Mu Yu. Since it's something from the gate of hell, don't you have any special magic to sense it? Mu Yu asked again. Gui Pei Ming faintly swept a glance at Mu Yu. He still didn't answer. What does the soul returning to the heart look like? Is it an ugly little devil's heart? Or is it a hard rock in a latrine pit? Mu Yu continued to ask. Bastard, you actually dare to compare our treasure with a latrine pit rock. Let me tell you, our soul returning to the heart is a... Gui Laochi angrily shouted. Shut up, Gui Laochi. Gui Pei Ming waved his hand and recalled the twins back into his body. He didn't let them speak casually. Gui Pei Ming looked at Mu Yu. What does the soul returning to the heart look like? Only the higher-ups of the gate of hell know. Even us ordinary people of the gate of hell don't know. Outsiders don't even have the chance to know. You don't deserve to know. Mu Yu laughed out loud. No one knew about it, but it was still stolen. What a joke. Could it be that there's a traitor in the gate of hell? My family is unfortunate. Gui Pei Ming's face showed anger, but he couldn't get angry. Then he seemed to have thought of something and sneered. Don't think I don't know what you want to do. You want to know the whereabouts of the soul returning to the heart from my mouth, and then come to stop me, right? You're wrong. I won't tell you when the soul returning to the heart was stolen. I also won't let you know the whereabouts of the soul returning to the heart. Just give up. Fuck, this little Japanese guy is really smart. Gui Pei Ming had always wanted to kill Mu Yu. Although he was arrogant, he wasn't as stupid as the other little Japanese guys. It was very easy to get information out of him. Although this guy was very annoying, he had to admit that he was a meticulous person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sent by Gui Yeming to do this kind of thing. Gui Pei Ming was still looking for clues at the entrance of the cave. Mu Yu couldn't get information out of the little Japanese guy. He also didn't know what he should do, so he simply walked to the stone table and sat down. As soon as he sat down, he suddenly realized that there was another person sitting on the stone chair opposite him without him noticing. Chapter 663. When Muyu saw the appearance of the person in front of him, he cried out in shock, "Master!" Then he immediately stood up. But after he stood up, the stone chair opposite him was empty. There was no one there. Was it an illusion? Gue Zhenming turned his head to look at Muyu, who had sat down, and then stood up. He found that Muyu was looking at the empty space in a daze and could not help but frown. But Muyu pretended to bend down and wipe the chair to cover up the abnormality and sat down again. Gue Zhenming looked at Muyu suspiciously and did not care about what Muyu was doing. But Muyu's heart was in a perilous situation. After he sat down, a handsome man appeared in front of him again. His white robes fluttered in the wind, and he seemed to have transcended the mortal world. His gentle and refined aura was as reliable as a mountain. It was as if as long as this person was here, there would be no more danger in the world. Muyu's master, Jian Ingchun Feng. Muyu scratched his head and looked in the direction of Gue Zhenming, but found that there was no one at the entrance of the cave. He did not see Gue Zhenming's figure. After he sat down on the chair, he seemed to have come to another place, isolated from Gue Zhenming's probing. Fortunately, when he called out the word "Master," he sat down. Otherwise, Gue Zhenming would have sensed something. "Master, why are you here?" Muyu asked in bewilderment. "You call me master? In the future, I took in a disciple?" Jianing Chunfeng looked at Muyu with interest. "Future? What do you mean? Master, are you just a remnant of consciousness?" Muyu asked. He had already seen Taoist Master Xin Jizi's remnant consciousness twice. Now that he saw his young master, Muyu naturally thought so. Jian Ing Chunfeng sat on the stone chair and looked at Muyu. He smiled kindly and said, "I am a person who lives in the past. Occasionally, I come here to look at the reincarnation seal." A person who lives in the past? Muyu didn't really understand this sentence, but the moment he saw his master, his nose turned sour and the bitterness in his heart involuntarily surged up. Even if the master in front of him was someone who lived in the past, did the master in the past know that he would be framed by Jia in the future? "You have my sword intent, my shadow swords, and my naughty sword spirit in your pocket. However, I didn't teach you array techniques." "Didn't I teach you array techniques?" Jianing Chunfeng's eyes were incomparably clear. He did not see through the vicissitudes of the world, but he was filled with wisdom. He sat there like a warm harbor, making Muyu, who had been drifting for a long time, feel a sense of security. It was also this person in front of him who sealed the Demon King and locked up all the flesh-winged and horned monsters more than 5,000 years ago, preventing the destruction of the third heaven. Muyu took little Shuai out of his pocket, but little Shuai was snoring loudly. He even turned around and scratched his belly, not noticing anything. Jianing Chunfeng smiled and reached out to touch little Shuai. "Little guy, why are you so tired? Where did you go to be naughty?" A white light entered little Shuai's chest, and little Shuai opened his eyes in a daze. He looked suspiciously at Jian Ing Chunfeng and yawned. "Who are you?" Little Shuai's memories were very blurry. He did not remember Jian Ing Chunfeng. Jian Ing Chunfeng nodded thoughtfully. "The sword spirit does not remember me. It seems that he has been reborn. Something must have happened in the future that I cannot stop." Muyu sighed. "Master, my name is Muyu. In your future, you said that we could not learn array techniques, but I still secretly learned it." "I'm sorry." Jianing laughed. "You don't need to apologize to me. Everyone has their own choices. When you feel that your choice is clear in your heart, it is the right choice. I don't know if I've taught you this in the future." Muyu's heart warmed, and he nodded. Master would never blame them, whether it was in the past or now. "Master, many things have happened in the outside world. I do not know how to explain it, and the current you." Muyu did not dare to continue. According to what Jianing Chunfeng said, he was a person who lived in the past. He did not know what would happen in the future. If Muyu told his master everything that had happened, Muyu was not sure if his master would believe him. "I thought that I would never accept a disciple in my life. To me, all disciples are just passers-by. I do not want to boast, but none of the disciples that I have nurtured are ordinary people. They will change the order of this world, but I cannot easily interfere with this world. Furthermore, I do not like to see my favorite disciple slowly die. Jianing Qinfeng winked at Muyu kindly. An immortal and powerful person. In his long and endless life, everyone was just a passerby in his eyes. He would not die, but the disciples that he accepted would die. The lovers that he liked would also die. Once there was too much separation, it would make people feel tired. But if he nurtured a disciple, with his character of not restricting his disciple's actions, he would let his disciple choose his own life. His disciple would definitely shine brightly and become an overlord, influencing the entire cultivation world. Over time, after thousands of years, perhaps all the sects in the cultivation world would have inextricably linked to him. His disciple's shadow would be everywhere, and his shadow would also be everywhere. This was not the result that he wanted to see. In my opinion, the cultivation world should be diverse and should not be interfered with by the people that I have nurtured. If the shadows of my disciples and grand disciples are everywhere, then in the future, everyone in the cultivation world will only revere my swordsmanship and formation skills. Many miraculous spells and talented people will gradually disappear, and then the cultivation world will become monotonous. So I don't understand what changed my mind in the future. Jianing Qinfeng was very curious about Muyu. He could not understand why his future self would suddenly accept a disciple. He was a young and wise man who did not want the entire cultivation world to become his world. But he did not want to change the world, and the world became the world of evil people. Muyu knew that his master was right. Xiang Nan was now using his own methods to quietly change the situation of the cultivation world. He wanted to use his own methods to fight against the threefold palace. Jian Ying Chunfeng's disciples were not cowards. Master, I do not know why you accepted us as disciples, but if you want to know, I can tell you everything that I have seen over the years, Muyu said. Jianing Chunfeng smiled and shook his head. No need. I live in the past. Why should I know about the future? I'm just curious, but I do not want to know. Muyu was silent. He would never be able to see through his master. Jianing Chunfeng reached out his slender fingers and touched Little Shuai's head. Little Shuai looked at the person in front of him in a daze. He wagged his tail, but he did not dodge. Why do I feel like I have seen you before? Little Shuai lay on the table, holding his chin as he blinked. Little guy, since you have been reborn, it is normal for you to forget some things, Jianing Chunfeng said with a smile. Little Shuai mumbled a few words and yawned. Master, can the sky-evolving reincarnation seal really return me to the past? This was what Muyu wanted to know the most. Jianing Chunfeng raised his head and looked at Muyu. It looks like you are here to return to the past and see the buried truth. But returning to the past is very difficult to explain. You might not know what you want to know. You might not know what you want to know? What does that mean? Muyu did not understand. When he returned to the past, he could see many things that had been covered in dust. For example, where did the flesh-winged horned monsters come from? How did the Demon King fight against the flesh-winged horned monsters? Muyu could find the answers to these questions in the past. But Jianing Chunfeng said that when he returned to the past, he might not know what he wanted to know. When people return to the past, they can change the past, but they also cannot change the past. Oftentimes, a careless thing you do in the past can have many different effects, Jianing Chunfeng slowly explained. Muyu looked puzzled. But Taoist Master Xin Jizi told me that the past cannot be changed. Otherwise, there will be many inexplicable contradictions. Why do you say that the past can be changed, but the past cannot be changed? I'll explain it to you like this. You can use the Sky Spill reincarnation seal to return to the past. You can participate in the past. You can talk to people in the past and interfere with their decisions. You can even kill people in the past. That is changing the past. However, once the Sky Pierce reincarnation seal takes you away from the past and returns to the present, everything you've done in the past and any traces you've changed will be erased. How history develops, this is the past. The past cannot be changed, do you understand? Jianing and Chunfeng explained patiently. Muyu carefully listened to Jian Ying Chunfeng's words. He seemed to understand something. The heavenly Tao had its own rules. The sky spill reincarnation seal could take a person back to the past, but it could not change the heavenly Tao's rules. If the trajectory of Mu Yu's life was a straight road, with no end and no fork in the road, he would keep moving forward on this road. The sky spill reincarnation seal took him to the past, which meant that he returned to a place he had once walked on this path. At this moment, the sky spill reincarnation seal was equivalent to opening up a new fork in the road. Mu Yu continued walking along the new path. Because of his participation, he changed the history of the new path, leading the world's trajectory to an unpredictable outcome. When the sky spill reincarnation seal brought Mu Yu back, it would bring him back to the original path. The new path would disappear, and everything he had changed would turn into bubbles. History wouldn't change because of him. It was just that after returning to the past, he would know a lot of things that had happened in the past. Then why do you say that those who want to know might not know? Mu Yu continued asking. Little Shuai interrupted. I know that. For example, in the example I gave you last time, we returned to the past. I threw a boulder in the middle of the road, causing an old granny to fall and blackmail a pregnant lady. The lady couldn't afford the compensation and hung herself. That way, she wouldn't be able to give birth to the child. And if your real goal of returning to the past was to know what the lady's child looked like, but the lady died before giving birth, so naturally, she didn't have a child. Of course, you wouldn't know. So it's equivalent to you burying the truth of the matter, right? Jianing smiled slightly and reluctantly agreed with little Shuai's explanation. Mu Yu resisted the urge to beat up little Shuai. This fellow kept using him as an example. He was asking for a beating. However, with little Shuai's explanation, it was a lot clearer. For example, if he wanted to return to the past to see who stole the soul converge from the people at the gate of hell, but if he did something that inadvertently stopped the person who stole the soul converge, that person changed their plan and didn't steal the soul converge, then the soul converge from the gate of hell wouldn't be lost. Mu Yu wouldn't be able to find out who this person was. So, when you return to the past, try not to kill or stop anyone. Also, don't tell anyone about the future. Only then will you be able to get the answer you want to know. Do you understand? Jianing said. Mu Yu nodded. Then he was stunned. Didn't this mean that his master would help him? Master, I thought you would stop me from returning to the past. Since you are my future disciple, then do whatever you want to do. I won't stop my disciple from doing anything because I believe that you do things with a clear conscience, right? Jianing Chunfeng smiled kindly at Mu Yu. Chapter 664. Halfway up the mountain on the sky spill reincarnation seal, Gue Shiming was still pondering over the sky spill nebula at the entrance of the cave. Mu Yu was calmly sitting on a stone chair, staring blankly at the empty stone table in front of him. Gue Shiming did not know that Mu Yu's mind had already wandered to another place, conversing with Jian Ying and Qin Feng. Master, how do I go back to the past? Mu Yu asked. Jian Ying and Qin Feng politely asked, have you learned the so close, yet worlds apart formation? Mu Yu nodded. The method to break so close, yet worlds apart is a very simple formation that very few people know. In the future, I might have some misgivings about not teaching you the formation, but since you have already learned it, then I don't have any misgivings. I will teach you a very practical formation called worlds apart. When the time comes, you will understand how to break so close, yet worlds apart. Jianing and Qin Feng smiled. Worlds apart. Mu Yu felt that it was very novel. He had never heard of such a formation before. That's right. Horizon apart is an extremely powerful array technique in the Sky Sword 9 Guides array. I noticed that the Sky Sword 9 Guides sword array you've learned has yet to be fully formed. I'm afraid you haven't mastered many sword arrays yet. In the future, I am really old and confused. Why didn't I teach you the sword formation completely? Jianing and Qin Feng smiled and shook his head. He did not understand his own thoughts about the future. Mu Yu looked at his master who called him old and confused and felt a sense of familiarity. His master had his reasons for everything he did. Even if he mocked himself, it was still very amiable and respectable. So close, yet worlds apart, magnifies a small distance infinitely. It is so close, yet so far away. However, worlds apart is the opposite. It is so far away, yet so close to you. You only saw the moment I stabbed out, but your chest had already been pierced. This is the power of worlds apart. Jianing extended his hand, and a white light surged out from his hand. Then, he tapped Mu Yu's forehead. A mysterious rune transformed into a sharp sword energy, which immediately reverberated within Mu Yu's mind. Mu Yu's mind was filled with the image of a white-robed sword shadow, Chun Feng, standing proudly in the wind as he stared at the mountain that was thousands of li away. The heaven sword in his hand gently hummed and swayed. The sword light turned slightly and turned into ripples that spread out. He thrust out his sword, and before the tip of the sword could even slice through the mountain, it was as if the mountain thousands of li away had been pulled right in front of him, and it was pierced through by a sudden and majestic sword chi. Even before the sword was fully unleashed, the mountain had already collapsed. Taking the head of an enemy general from 1,000 li away was nothing more than this. It was just a simple sword, but it seemed to encompass thousands of worlds. A simple movement, not a simple concept, everything was wrapped within that sword. Mu Yu looked at Jian Ying Chun Feng's sword in amazement. That movement continued to play out in Mu Yu's mind and was unable to completely disperse. He had been trying to capture his master's concept, wanting to catch up with his master's sword intent and use it as his own. With the world in your heart, worlds apart are close. Jianing Chun Feng's words once again reverberated in Mu Yu's mind. With the world in your heart, worlds apart are close. With one's heart, all living things under the heavens would be within reach no matter how far away they were. That was the might that Jianing Chun Feng once possessed. Now, Mu Yu could only look up. Jianing Chun Feng's sword was all-encompassing, and Mu Yu could only take a scoop of thousands of weak water. But this scoop was enough for him to comprehend for a long time. Mu Yu suddenly opened his eyes. The black and white runes in his eyes flashed and disappeared, turning into sword energy and disappearing. Thank you, Master. Mu Yu looked at his master's young appearance. The feelings in his heart were indescribable. He hoped that his master, who lived in the past, would know the dangers of the future and be on guard against the schemes of the threefold palace in the future. Jian Ying Chun Feng laughed. The me who lived in the past did not know you. But since I have accepted you as my disciple in the future, I naturally have to take responsibility for you. I do not want to know why you want to return to the past or what you want to do, but I know that you will definitely do what you want to do. Mu Yu had returned to the past because he wanted to know who had this soul returning to the heart from the gate of hell. He wanted to find this soul returning to the heart to repair Deadwood Daddy's soul. There were many people in his life who were very important to him. Deadwood Daddy, Jian Ying Chun Feng, and Mu Yu did not want anything to happen to them. Uncle, do you have to teach everyone who comes here wanting to return to the past? Little Shuai asked in a daze. Jianing Chun Feng held little Shuai in his arms and patted his head. Little guy, I am here to prevent anyone from returning to the past. Without my permission, they cannot enter the cave. Do you understand? My name is Little Shuai, not Little Guy. Little is little as in Little Shuai, and Shuai is Shuai as in Little Shuai. Little Shuai said unhappily, but he did not reject Jian Ying Chun Feng's touch. This was because Little Shuai could feel a familiar aura from Jian Ying Chun Feng. Master, many times, Mu Yu felt that certain feelings could not be expressed with words. Jian Ying Chun Feng had prevented others from entering, but he had allowed Mu Yu to go in and do his thing. I have no reason not to trust someone who can be my disciple in the future, Jian Ying Chun Feng said with a smile. Mu Yu nodded and then asked, Master, the guy from the gate of hell wants to return to the past to find the person who stole soul return a heart. Only he knows where and when soul return a heart was stolen. So, I have to follow him back to the past. Is that okay? There was nothing he could do about it. Gue Jiming knew where soul return a heart was, but Mu Yu did not. So, he had to take the risk and go back to the past with Gue Jiming. As for how to deal with Gue Jiming after returning, He had already thought of that. The gate of hell's soul return a heart? Is that item missing in the future? Jianing Chun Feng rubbed his chin and said, "Once you unlock so close, yet so far, I will not be able to protect you. I'm just someone who lives in the past. I do not have the power to harm others. So, you have to be careful." Muyu looked at Jianing Chun Feng again. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. In the end, he said, "Master, you're someone who lives in the past, but I still hope you could be wary of Bai Jie from the three palaces in the future. He is a treacherous person. He is not worthy of your trust. You should know that saying that to me is useless. I am someone who lives in the past. I do not want to know about the future." Jianing Chun Feng was still as calm as ever. Even if he knew someone was going to harm him in the future, he did not want to know. Muyu forced a smile and said, "I know, but if you say it out loud, I will feel better." As he said that, he stood up from the stone chair. Jianing Chun Feng had already disappeared, and Xiao Shuai landed on the stone table. The old banyan tree swayed in the wind. Everything was still calm. Muyu looked at Gue Ji Ming, who was still trying to find his way into the cave. He picked up Xiao Shuai and placed him on his shoulder. He then said, "Hey, Japanese, let's make a deal." Gue Ji Ming turned around and coldly looked at Muyu. "A deal? That's right. I know how to enter the cave, and I know how to return to the past. However, I must go with you." Muyu said. Gue Ji Ming sneered. "Why should I believe you?" "Because you have no other choice." Muyu slowly walked towards Gue Ji Ming. When he reached Gue Ji Ming's side, a golden rune appeared in his hand. He slapped Gue Ji Ming's face. "Oomph, are you still wasting your energy?" Gue Ji Ming did not move, because he knew that there was a strange array here. Muyu could not touch him. However, Gue Ji Ming was wrong this time. "Ha!" A heart-stirring sound rang out. Gue Ji Ming angrily covered his face. A red palm print had already appeared on his face. Muyu's slap was not merciful at all. If it was not for Gue Ji Ming's life, he could even take advantage of Gue Ji Ming's unguarded state and directly kill him. "Your skin is thicker than Xiao Shuai's. It's quite painful to hit." Muyu shook his hand. Gue Ji Ming always had a self-righteous look and was always filled with killing intent. Muyu had long wanted to slap this guy. "Nonsense. Whose skin could be thicker than mine?" Xiao Shuai retorted. "You're courting death." Gue Ji Ming was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. He thought that the array here prevented both sides from touching. He did not expect that he would be hit by Muyu. If Muyu was holding a sword just now, wouldn't the consequences be unimaginable? Gue Ji Ming was extremely angry. After being slapped by Muyu, he thought that the array here had lost its effect. A blood-red long axe immediately appeared in his hand and chopped down at Muyu. However, Muyu also followed his example and did not dodge at all. The blood-red long axe kept chopping down in the air, but it was unable to hit Muyu. Muyu backhanded another slap. However, this time Gue Ji Ming learned his lesson. He dodged and looked at Muyu vigilantly. What a pity. I knew that the god soul wood was useless against him. Muyu felt some regret in his heart. When Muyu gave Gue Ji Ming a slap, the god soul wood in his hand also pierced Gue Ji Ming's skin. However, it was stopped by a sinister ghost chi. This guy had long been on guard against the attack of the god soul wood. Perhaps when the matter of controlling Gue Hongyu was discovered, the people of the Gate of Hell had already made countermeasures. How was this possible? How on earth did you do it? Gue Ji Ming was very angry. He completely did not understand what happened just now. Why was Muyu able to hit him so easily while he could not hit him? Want to go back to the past? You can only rely on me now. Let's go to the past and see where the soul returning to the heart is. Muyu raised the golden rune in his hand. The rune caused a ripple to appear in the surroundings so near, yet poles apart. Gue Ji Ming's eyes wavered. He did not expect that the initiative would be in Muyu's hands. Why are you not restricted by the rune here? Gue Ji Ming asked in a deep voice. Because we are handsome. Little Shuai grinned on Muyu's shoulder. What nonsense are you talking about? Muyu also laughed. Gue Ji Ming clenched his fist. He came to the demon-subduing pagoda, this time to go back to the past to find the whereabouts of the soul returning to the heart. It was not easy to come here, but he was stuck outside. Although he did not know how Muyu did it, he also understood that he had to cooperate with Muyu. Okay. Gue Ji-ming pondered for a moment and agreed, because he thought that even if Muyu knew the whereabouts of the soul returning to the heart, Muyu had no way to take it away from the past. Knowing that after the soul returning to the heart, he had to leave the demon-subduing pagoda. At that time, Muyu might not be able to leave the demon-subduing pagoda alive. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.